All right, guys, we are back with Destiny for another very heated Israel versus Palestine debate. We're going to be talking about the Jews, the Palestinians, the terror. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I thought it'd be fun. This is probably the longest we've ever gone since I met you without doing a stream. And
Probably, yeah.
a lot of shit has changed in the last 2 months, politically wise. I was going to ask you this. I haven't really seen you in the last 2 months on like many debate channels. I saw you on that Pierce Morgan debate with Andrew, which was kind of disappointing because it was so civil. What have you been doing?
Just basically watching stuff and just chilling, big chilling. But we've been like watching a lot of news coverage and everything. All of the kind of like conservative platforms, I think, have kind of taken a break from any super confrontational arguments since they won the election. So I think they've been kind of like chilling because they don't have to do anything. And then we've just kind of been watching the collapse of the empire, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess let's jump with this. So why do you think Democrats lost the election?
My personal feeling is it was a big referendum check on like inflation. I think that incumbent parties all over the world had a huge issue. I think that people saw prices going up. It's like a really easy thing to feel really bad about. And then any edge cases where Democrats could have made good headway, they fucked up on. So I think they did bad messaging around stuff like all the woke issues and dumb shit like that, basically.
Well, Kamala didn't really mention anything woke. This would be going back to way to the past. Like Kamala didn't run on anything woke. I do agree it was a referendum on the incumbent party, but Mexico, we had from the Moreno party, Sheinbaum, she won, and she was from the same party as AMLO. So there were some exceptions to that. Do you think there's anything else to contribute to besides a referendum on the incumbents?
I feel like that was a big one, yeah. Like, were there other things? I think like some of the woker issues, I think probably impacted it a bit. But I think I would say that was the big one, yeah. I don't know.
I would say there's a few other big things. You can just tell me if you agree, disagree with this. I think that a lot of public's trust was hurt with the Democrats because they pretended for so long like Joe Biden was fine. And then kind of during that display, it was just a disaster. I think that hurt people's trust in the Democrats. I think that while Biden had good policies in some ways, a lot of his policies didn't like affect you right away. It's more like, yeah, we're going to build the chips factory, but it's not something people feel. It's not something people notice, right? Versus if he did something more that you feel right away, like a stimulus check. I know he did it in the beginning, but closer to the election, or something like raising the minimum wage or paid family leave, something that people can feel, that would be more tangible. Because I think the average normie has no idea what Biden did or did not do. Like I just don't think they know. Only people like us who like kind of dive into policy. We know about the CHIPS Act. We know about the IRA. We know about all that stuff. So I think that played a role. And I think probably the biggest factor out of everything I've said is going to be the fact that simply Kamala is not that charismatic. And I think policy doesn't really matter that much anymore, certainly not with swing voters. It's largely about just, who people vibe with more. It's a vibes election. And Trump got people excited to come out, and Kamala did not get people excited to come out. So the Democratic base didn't come out as was expected. And I think that's what hurt because people weren't excited about her like they were for Obama. Obama is just very charismatic. He's very engaging, and he got people exciting. I think Joe Biden was the exception just because it was people were looking for such a different candidate after, with the pandemic going on. Like I think that it was no matter who Democrats ran in 2020, they were going to lose. I think also Kamala did not do a good enough job differentiating between between her policies and Biden. So people just saw her as like, she's just going to be basically the same old. And my feeling is that, with what the Democrats have been doing, even though it's not their fault, inflation is pretty high. And so I'm going to get more inflation if I go with her. So I don't think she did a good enough job differentiating between Biden. But really, I just think she's not charismatic or popular enough to succeed in the modern world of 2024 politics. I think that nowadays you need someone like Jon Stewart. You need someone who's entertaining, who's engaging, who's charismatic.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of those things. I don't know how much of any of those things individually brought the election to where it was, but I mean, I would say for sure that we're very much in like an influencer style political like environment now, where being able to capture people's attention and get people excited and shit post on Twitter and everything all day is probably a really important thing for a lot of voters now, for better or for worse. So
yeah, I think also that just going back to a point, the reason that the Moreno party won in Mexico. So for anyone who's not familiar, the Moreno party is like the liberal party in Mexico. So AMLO, who was the president before the current Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, he tripled the minimum wage. And that's like some shit that people can feel. Like if Biden doubled the minimum wage, like there's a good chance he could have, Kamala could have won the election, because that's something people can feel. It's like, wow, like my income just doubled under this president, under this Democratic president. So I think Tim Walz actually kind of said it best after the whole thing was over. He said, like, yeah, people don't want us to tinker around the edges. People want like real, tangible change. And people vote on vibes, and people vote on these things they can feel like. No one votes on like, oh, unemployment numbers are good, right? Because again, it's not something you feel. People vote based on inflation. People vote based on, you know, how, for example, whether they're living paycheck to paycheck, whether they feel like they're doing better. Very few people vote based on macro things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the messaging is obviously more important than the policy. I think Americans have shown that they want to be messaged to better than they care about anything actually getting done. So yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Wait, hang on one second. But yeah, I mean, so question: 2028, is it going to be Trump running, or who's going to be running?
I mean, like my feeling is that he's going to be too old, but I also felt that for this election. So who the fuck knows? I think the really important thing is going to be midterms, and then we're going to see how people are actually feeling about Republicans in general. My guess is Trump has to be gone for 2028. He's just going to be so fucking old, and you've already seen him slow down pretty significantly due to his age now. So, but I mean, yeah, who the fuck knows? Who knows for real? But yeah, my guess is he's going to be gone. But
who do you think is the best right now? Like, who do you think is going to be a leader in the Democratic Party? Who do you think will run, and who do you think should run for the president?
No clue, but it's going to have to be somebody who's like exciting, like somebody that gets people hyped and can play social media well. But I think we're way too far out to see what's going to actually happen. I think people like AOC could do it. I like AOC. I think she's done a good job at learning how to be an exciting person, but also still like be effective politically inside of her political environments and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, AOC, I guess. I think she might be too feisty for the general public. I don't know. I do like her. I'm personally fond of her. I think someone like Tim Walz would be a better choice. Or the governor of Michigan, who's that lady? Gretchen Whitmer, I think, has a lot of charisma. Even Josh Shapiro, potentially, even though he's got that whole murder thing. JB Pritzker, Andy Bashir. Like, I think those would be all solid choices.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we're so far out from that. It's hard to say, right?
Yeah. So, okay, let's move on to this. So, if you had to rate how Trump's been doing for the last 2 months, what would you get? What kind of rating would you give him?
I mean, the worst possible rating. I think it's probably been the most unbelievable. Like when it's gotten so bad that even conservatives are just kind of like being quiet because they realize it's all insanely indefensible. I think that says something. And yeah, it's just been an unbelievable, horrendous 2 months. Jesus.
I kind of felt from the start that Trump would be a disaster, but tell me if you agree with this, but he's been much, much more of a disaster than I could have ever anticipated in such a short time period. Like, I just never thought we'd be talking about Social Security, laying the groundwork for taking down Social Security. There'd be massive cuts to Medicare. I never thought that Elon Musk would be like fucking tinkering around the Treasury. Like, it's all been just a bunch of like pretty unbelievable stuff.
I mean, I think the argument is just that it's kind of what was said in the first term is that for his first term, there was more he wanted to do. He just didn't know anything about government because he just doesn't know anything about government. And this time around, he realizes that in order to get the stuff that he wants done, most of what he wants to do is illegal. So he needs like super sycophantic people to go along with it. And now he's just done a much better job at having those people around him. People who are literally like never going to say no to him and are going to go along with the most unhinged stuff possible. And that's basically what we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of like Republican politicians actually like starting to mimic his like dancing and his movements. They're all doing like gay jerk off dance where it looks like they're jerking off two guys.
Yeah, I saw a cringe shit like that.
Like they're all talking with their hands a lot more, like, but to an extent they never did before. Yeah, you see a lot of that. People like some Republican, I forget his name, voting to creating a bill that would rename an airport after Trump. Rename a bunch of things after Trump. Yeah, it's just the level of dick sucking on the right is insane. So, what would you say to someone who's not really been following politics too closely? What do you think are the three worst things Trump has done since he started?
Um, the way that I would message to somebody who hasn't been following politics closely, I would just say that like the tariffs and everything are probably going to make everything a lot more expensive. That the United States is just generally going to be seen as kind of like a bad guy now instead of a good guy in the world. And I think that if you care at all about our history and what the United States has contributed to the world, especially around things like World War II, it's kind of sad to see us just abandon that position completely. And then I would say that our I don't know if I would fixate on Social Security or Medicare, but I don't know, probably something in the vein of that. It would depend on who I'm talking to more specifically past that point. But the really bad stuff has to do with the deportations and everything now. I have to figure out a way to message more effectively on that. But it's been some of the most, this party has had the largest disregard for law that probably in the history, definitely in the history of any American presidency ever. It's just fucking insane.
Yeah, with the only one that comes close is Andrew Jackson, but that was like 250 years ago. But yeah, I guess I would say also that if I was communicating this, I'd say like definitely the economy, just crashing the economy in such a short time span. Stagflation is increasing. The stock market is crashing. What's it called? The stock market is crashing. You have a whole bunch of new people who are unemployed. Unemployment is up because all these people got fired. You just have, inflation is worse than it's ever been. Republicans used to talk about the price of eggs leading up to election. Now they've completely stopped talking about eggs at all because the price of eggs is even worse. Just kind of destroying the economy in such a short time span, and it's only going to get worse. I agree with you about the part about turning allies into enemies. Like Canada was extremely unexpected. Like Canada's been our ally forever. Not a lot of people know this, but they went with us to Iraq. Like they've actually like followed us into every war. And even though obviously their military is nothing like super, they've contributed. It's like a fraction of a percentage of a fentanyl actually comes through Canadian border. Like as far as allies go, and Canada is like our strongest ally, or top 10 strongest ally. So kind of really souring those relations. I mean, you have just now, like, for example, all American alcohol being banned from the state-run alcohol stores in Canada, and those are like the largest alcohol purchasers in the world. So you have just like a lot of shit like that happening.
For like no reason too. Like all of this is happening. It's not even like anything was happening where it's like, oh God, we need to crack down on Canadians. Like all of this is just like totally unprovoked.
Yeah, it's totally random. No reason for it. Doesn't benefit the American people in any way. In fact, I would argue that I watched both what Trudeau said and also that guy Pierre Bolivar, who's the opposition party. And in both of their speeches, they seem more empathetic towards the American people than what Trump did in his speech, where he was like, look, yeah, things are going to get a little hard, but people understand. People are okay with it. People know things got to get worse before they get bad. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so fucking weird. It's just horrible. Yeah. Well, it makes sense if you look at it through this perspective. This is a conspiracy theory going around the left, but I don't think it's that crazy. Is that the whole idea is that basically his ultra rich friends, they know what he's going to do, when he's going to do the announcement, when he's going to back off the tariffs. So they short a bunch of stock, the stock crashes. Then when he does his announcement, they go up and they sell and they make billions of dollars. I've heard this said before, but like Trump has so many other ways of illegally making money. I mean, he's already doing with all the crypto scam shit. Where he's going to be making all of them. Yeah, but it's so much. Like these are called, we call these. I've heard people refer to these as unforced errors. Like he's doing so much stuff that's so beyond the pale. Like this guy's like 80 plus whatever fucking years old. Like it's not like he needs extra money. Like what's he doing? Like he can't afford the PS6 or something that he absolutely has to push the entire country to the brink of extinction. Like I just think it's unhinged. Yeah, but people don't become rich by like not caring about money. It's about. Well, he became rich because he was big on The Apprentice. Like, let's be real. Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like, people, like people who are really rich, like they don't do it because they need to buy something, right? They do it for the chase, for the high. They like that, like just they get a high when they get more money in their bank account. That's just how they operate. So it's not necessarily that he needs something or that he can't afford. He can afford everything, obviously. So can Elon. Elon's the richest man on the planet. It's not he doesn't need to be meddling in Doge. He doesn't need any of that, right? He's just doing it because he wants more power. So I think there's a lot of I think a lot of these guys are ideologically driven for sure. In that like the
the ideology is important, maybe even more important than just the money part, or the gaining power is like the important part, and the money is just a way to do that, basically.
But the thing is, I think Elon has ideology, and I don't think Trump has any, like, or doesn't have much ideology. He changes his position on things all the time in a very short time span. Like he's before he was super anti H-1B visa, now he's pro it. Like he flip flops on a lot of issues like really really fast. So I don't actually believe he has strong ideology.
I don't think he has like a coherent ideology. Like he doesn't understand what his ideology is, but I definitely think that there is a feeling that he has intuitively that like large countries should run the world. So Russia should be able to take over Ukraine if they want. China should be able to bully Hong Kong and Taiwan if they want. And then the United States should be able to bully Canada and Mexico if they want. He probably couldn't like give words to that, like or explain it in any sort of coherent manner. But I think that intuitively, I think that's what he feels. And I think that's like his guiding way of seeing the world, basically.
I mean, I would say that his guiding way of seeing the world is through his personal ego. So the leader of some country, for whatever reason, offends his ego, and then now that country is the enemy. Leader of some hostile power actually validates his ego and says good things about him, which is why is Putin like never talks shit about Trump. Like Putin only ever says good things about Trump because he knows. Well, privately he probably talks massive shit because he knows that that's what's going to get a response. So that's kind of he looks at it very much through an ego perspective and a very quid pro quo way type. Like you do something for me, I'm going to do something for you. But you gotta give me your undying loyalty, undying support. If you waver from me on just anything, then you no longer get my support. I think he looks at it very transactionally and very much through ego. But yeah, aside from the whole like let's make a bunch of fucking rich people more money, the idea of doing tariffs against Canada just is so irrational, and there's really just no good argument for it. So that's kind of why I think that theory might. I'm not saying it is the case, but I'm saying that I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to like the problem. Yeah, it's just so hard to say because if we look at the totality of actions, so many of them, like you said, he was for H-1B and then against H-1B, and he keeps going back and forth on these tariffs. It's hard to find like a consistent guiding principle just because he seems so wacky sometimes. Other than reality should be whatever I want it to be, and then that's whatever he wills it, basically. Yeah.
I think it's also like going back to what I said. It's like again, it's about like an ego thing. Like initially, for example, there's supposed to be tariffs with Mexico, but Claudia agreed to send like troops to the border or something like that. And then he's like, yes, he like took it as a W. So it's more about like owning, like other world leaders, about like dominance. Like he had a thing. This is like a pretty well known fact back in the day of like basically blackmailing his friends into letting him fuck their wives. So that was like his thing, is just like humiliating his friends and fucking their wives.
Where Trump was fucking his friends' wives?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard of this before, but okay.
Yeah, a while ago, but yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So I think that's just who he is. It's just about like dominance and like establishing supremacy. But yeah, anyway, so going back to what's been happening. So we talked a little about the economy part. The immigration part is obviously very dangerous and sad, but also I think a lot of people think what was promised, what people voted for Trump for, is the idea that we're going to deport illegal citizens who commit crime. I think that was largely the premise of it. And maybe we're going to just deport illegal citizens in general. But no one voted on him for the idea that we're going to deport legal residents because I
think some did, but there's probably a lot that didn't. Yeah. Or no, wait. I'm so sorry. I misheard when you were saying illegal. I thought you meant illegal versus, because some people say I only want to deport the ones that committed crimes, and they mean like violent felons, and then other ones will say like, yeah, they're all crime committers though, so we should deport all of them. But I understand what you're saying now. Yeah, you mean the versus deporting people who just had like green cards or visas. Yeah, that's like such an unbelievable step further than he needs to go. I don't understand. I don't have a way to explain it either. Yeah, it's insane.
It is insane. But I think it gets a lot crazier. There's no due process for these people. They just basically some of them just get disappeared. A lot of them wind up, I don't know how it came to this, but in an El Salvadorian prison, which is known for being pretty fucking intense, like not the type of prisons we have in America for obvious reasons. That is crazy that someone who is here legally, is a green card holder, can wind up in not just deported back to their home country, but wind up in an El Salvadorian prison because they protest or because they say something that is not in line with the administration. Like, that is just fucking nuts.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole way that they're arguing it legally is insane as well, because if their legal arguments are allowed to stand, they can basically deport anybody they want in the entire United States for no reason. Kind of fucking crazy. Yeah.
I don't see this argument being made a lot on the left. I guess because for obvious reasons, it's not really a popular argument. But the argument I would make is that if we look at statistics, immigrants are just better than native-born Americans. They commit less crimes than the native-born Americans. They pay more in taxes than native-born Americans. They work harder than native-born Americans. They hate around, like, there's a misconception, I think, that, oh, like, immigrants are going to be more likely to commit crime, or they're going to be more likely to be a drain on the system. But that's, like, not statistically true. That's not borne out in facts and studies. I think that's, like, an important argument to make. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would agree. The thing you run into for immigrants is there's like a selection filter applied. Like, if somebody is taking the effort to immigrate here to this country, even illegally, then it's probably already a somewhat exceptional person. So you're going to be more likely to see positive outcomes from them as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely true. I mean, I'm going to be biased on this since I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 7. I'm a U.S. citizen now, so no worries about me being deported, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know. But I'm kind of biased with that. But I just looked at, like, my friends' upbringings and my upbringing. It's just like, well, there were some exceptions, especially I would say the big exception is Jewish families. Like, fuck, those kids were disciplined hard. Like, if both your parents are Jewish, like, you're not gonna fuck around. Like, all my, like, Jewish friends, like, there was no fucking around with their parents. But just look at my upbringing. It's just like I had a business when I was 13. I had to work all throughout high school, even though my parents had money. Like, I just had to, like, there was discipline. Like, I just couldn't fuck around. Versus I look at some of, like, my American friends, which were basically all the friends I had in high school, and it was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, do your thing. Here's your allowance type of thing.
Yeah, this was kind of the Vivek Ramaswamy argument. So be careful, because people got real mad when he brought that up. Yeah. That some of the immigrant culture might be a little bit different for some of the more successful groups of immigrants than some of the Native Americans. Yeah.
He wasn't wrong. I mean, not saying that all Americans are lazy or anything like that. Obviously, there's a lot of really hardworking native-born Americans, but when we do these policy, we do it on a macro level. We don't do it on a micro level. And so just this misconception that immigrants are more lazy or immigrants are more likely to commit crime is just false. It's something that's been propagated for a political point, but it's not actually based out in any fact. Where do you see? So let me kind of transition to this. Obviously, right now, Trump is having a showdown with the courts. The courts are especially not fond of what's going on with Bush. Where do you see that going?
Right now, the big question. So the courts have been, this court especially has been historically favorable to Trump, but I don't want to call it cope, but the idea I've heard is that while the courts might be favorable to Trump, they're more favorable to themselves, and that Roberts might finally be starting to fight back against Trump because Roberts doesn't want to watch the Supreme Court give up a lot of its own
He
power.
ruled against him in that one decision.
In the TRO thing, and he made a public statement against him as well, which was pretty exceptional. Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's a chance that Roberts might see the Supreme Court itself might see itself under threat right now from Trump, and they're not going to be willing to give up power to Trump just for the sake of giving power to the president. So maybe the Supreme Court will rein him in. I mean, we'll see. The government is getting, like, fucked by the courts in like 20 different ways, but they're trying to just go, push through it at breakneck speed and ignore what's happening. So
yeah, but I mean more like Trump just decides not to listen to the courts. Like, the courts.
That's where we're at right now, and that's more or less what they're doing. They're just doing it in, like, the most wacky ways possible. I guess we're gonna see what actually happens when. I don't know when. I keep saying that, but I don't, like, some of these. One of those TROs is like 30 days old at this point, but the government, I think, has finally been dragged along, kicking and screaming, and is starting to comply. But it's taken a long time, and
like, our political system checks and balances is in part based on good faith. But if the president, who controls the military and everything else, decides not to listen to the Supreme Court can't really do anything.
Yeah, but I mean, that's true of I mean, that's yeah. I mean, checks and balances isn't there to protect you from a dictator. It's just to make sure the system, like everybody playing within the rules, has appropriate checks and balances on the things that they can do. But if somebody decides they want to be a dictator, then you're kind of fucked. Well, if the executive decides that, because the executive is the one with all the policing power, unless like the military coups them, basically, you have no way to stop them.
Yeah, which I don't think would actually happen in America.
Maybe not. Yeah, who knows? We live in wild times.
We do live in unprecedented times. But yeah, I think that's like the concern for a lot of people is that he just will. I mean, he already has been kind of ignoring the courts, but I think he's kind of like doing like the halfway thing where he like sort of gives an excuse and he maybe like it's not just flat out, I'm not going to do what you say. But I think there's a good chance it will come to that. And then you have a constitutional crisis, basically. I mean, and just like what the fuck happens? Nothing really, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of sort of there. I mean, the big one will be, I guess, if the Supreme Court shuts something down. But I mean, who knows? It's hard to say. When it comes to like court shit and all that, like most Americans just don't really give a fuck anyway, because it's kind of nebulous. Like nobody really knows what the job of any of the courts are or anything. So I don't know. Yeah, it might be that he completely defies the courts, but then like nobody ends up caring at all about it anyway. So,
are you seeing, from my perspective, just from everything I've seen, I'm seeing kind of like a Tea Party on the left type of thing emerge. You can kind of see it in all these Republican town halls where they're just getting shut down by their own constituents, by Republicans, are not happy, especially about Doge. I think there's a saying that I think is very true. A lot of people don't really recognize something as a problem until it affects them. And I think a lot of people are being affected. I mean, there's a lot of videos on YouTube and X where you see former Trump where you see Trump voters saying like, "Yo, I did not expect to lose my job. I feel so betrayed." Blah blah blah. I think you're seeing definitely a movement on the left, just because of how extreme the Trump administration has been on certain issues. So I do think those people will care. But I guess the tough thing is like now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but you have Trump like basically bullying the law firms that are suing him or involved in like suits against one of the Doge policies, basically saying that he will sanction them through an executive order unless they do this or that. And you have a lot of law firms now backing down from cases or representing certain clients because it's just like, hey, it's not worth it to us. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, so this is like a thing that nobody would care about because it's all like weird legal stuff or whatever. But I would argue, depending on the form, I mean, this is probably some of the worst behavior that this administration has taken part in, which is them literally, Trump is going through and he's like issuing executive orders and he's naming all these lawyers or law firms that worked with anybody that was investigating him in the past. And now he's basically demanding from these law firms, you need to give me tens of millions of dollars of pro bono work. He got 40 million worth of pro bono work from something Ellen Cooey, it's Eli Cooey or something, and then I think he got $100 million from the next law firm that he extorted. And that like weaponization of the government of just saying that like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna start doing this now is unprecedented and insane. Yeah,
if you saw Biden do that, the right would be talking about nonstop. It would be a big thing for like forever.
Yeah, but the problem is they've already convinced themselves, because people on the right will just say like, "Oh no, well they've been doing this the whole time anyway," and it's like, okay, well then what can you say? Even though they haven't, there's no proof of that. But
I mean, there's no cases of the Biden administration like threatening or extorting law firms like that. That no one even makes that claim.
Yeah,
because that's so far from the truth. Yeah, I think that part is crazy, even though I don't think it's really gotten the attention it deserves in the news about just the extorting law firms. I think also what is equally probably as crazy is all the frivolous lawsuits he's involved in now. And then also,
I will never take conservatives seriously again when they talk about like freedom of speech or whatever. The idea that Donald Trump is literally suing fucking pollsters or media companies because he didn't like the interviews they gave is probably some of the worst and most egregious attacks on the concept of freedom of speech in U.S. history. It's just, all of this is like unprecedented. That's wild to me that somebody can say they care about freedom of speech, and then the president is suing, like he's suing the seltzer polling lady and her company from Iowa because he said her poll was bad. That's just insane. Like there's no excuse.
Well, let's explain the details for the craziest one, which is he's suing. Who's the company that did the interview with Kamala?
Yeah, that was the media company. It was either ABC or NBC.
NBC,
Or no,
I
no,
think.
it might have been CNN actually. I don't remember, but it was. Yeah, he said that they cut that interview unfairly, so he's like suing them. I don't even know under what defamation or what is CNN. Yeah, he's suing them. Yeah, because of that. It's just like, and it's crazy. And like, imagine. It's so stupid. I feel stupid saying this because it's like so obviously fucking horrible. Like, imagine you see Donald Trump is literally writing personal executive orders targeting every law firm that's ever worked against him in the past. Like, do you want to be the law firm, or do you want to be in-house, lawyers for CNN and defend CNN against these Trump lawsuits, knowing that your career literally could be on the line? You could be targeted next. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Yeah, the suing CNN about something where he wasn't involved at all because he didn't like the way they edited the Kamala interview. That is just completely unprecedented. Like that, I don't think that's ever happened before. Something that doesn't involve him. Yeah, you're right. I don't know what even he's suing for. That can't be defamation since he's not involved in it.
I mean, he can sue for whatever he wants. It's just you can list whatever you want on a complaint. Like he sued Facebook and Twitter X for infringing on his First Amendment rights when they banned his account. This is a ridiculous lawsuit, but they both settled now because he's friends with the CEO. So it's like, okay, well, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, the idea that the right is more pro free speech friendly than the left is a complete misnomer. It's not based on any fact, especially not. I mean, you have different types of conservatives, but especially not MAGA conservatives.
Mhm.
Yeah, like those fuckers do not give a shit about free speech. They want free speech when it's on their side, but they don't want free speech when it's against them or against Trump.
Yeah.
Or they're just in cognitive dissonance about Trump's actions and are just not aware of anything that we're saying.
Mhm.
It is pretty nuts. Let's talk about Trump's foreign policy. What do you think about the? I'm sure you've seen this, the Zelensky video.
I thought it was fucking horrible. But I mean, like, it feels like the position he takes is just that the United States is like super cucked and we can't have any influence over anything ever. That Russia's the big player here, and we just have to help Ukraine cuck out like as hard as possible to Russia, and that's literally all we can do. And it just feels so stupid. Yeah.
Well, the idea that for me was the most egregious was just kind of humiliating Zelensky uh, in the meeting. I think that I like Zelensky's English is clearly not that great, and he speaks Russian, Ukrainian, some English. I speak Russian, so I understand how Russians speak.
Mhm.
And I think what happened, here's my interpretation, is that because this all started when JD made that statement about how, like, hey, we're going to be looking, we need to try peace or whatever. And then Zelensky was like, well, how are we going to do peace when Putin has broken his word in the past? Right. That's what he was trying to get at. But the way he phrased it, due to his lack of English, seemed a bit abrupt, right? Which you can tell wasn't his intention, but I can see. So JD kind of took offense to that and escalated things massively. And then eventually Trump jumped in. Um, that was my interpretation. A lot of people believe, though, that that was the plan all along, like that they had planned in advance to humiliate Zelensky. What is your take on both of those options?
I mean, it felt like a setup. The thing that Trump said that I feel like made that sound worse than anything else was when they hit the end of that, and Trump literally said, "I'm glad I let this go on for so long so that you guys could see this." Made it feel like a setup. I mean, we can say that like maybe Zelensky sounded like he was phrasing something a bit aggressively because of English being a second language, but I mean, you should know this, right? Like, it's just like Vance's whole posture was just insane. We've already like crashed our relationship with all of fucking Europe thanks to Vance's speech in Munich at the security conference. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't view any of it as accidental. Like, I wouldn't give them the charitable interpretation of it.
I think what a lot of people on the right don't realize is that when we piss off Europe, we're just pushing them in the loving arms of China. Like, there's a meme going around, which is like Xi Jinping is just like sit back and win, right? But that's kind of what's happening when you basically, like, America still has to some extent massive influence all across the world, and that's why the dollar is the main currency and whatnot. But you piss off all of Europe, then they're going to turn more to China. They're not going to turn to Russia, but they could very easily turn to China. So you're just giving basically just long-term foreign policy. It's really, really bad to burn bridges with Europe, to burn bridges with Canada, to burn bridges with Mexico, to burn bridges with all of Latin America. None of it is good long-term policy-wise. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course. It's literally just suiciding our relationship with the rest of the world for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What other topics does it bring up? I guess Israel and Palestine, our favorite discussion. Something that you and I have engaged with heavily. What do you think about Trump's ceasefire?
I mean, it didn't last, so there was no real ceasefire. It just seemed to be a failure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was obvious from the start because you had Netanyahu going on Israeli state TV and saying that this is only temporary, that this is just, this is not going to last long. Because obviously there's some people who were pissed off about that.
Mhm.
So I think it was pretty obvious from the start that it was a sham. What do you think about America getting involved in Gaza and actually putting some American military contractors on the ground?
It just seems fucking stupid. I don't think it'll ever even happen. I think Trump just says shit like that for retarded reasons. And
No. My friend is former military.
Mhm.
He has a friend who's big in military contracting, and he already had a call, basically, to be stationed in Gaza.
Sure, he might have, but I would bet my life there's zero chance that the United States is gonna like seriously get involved in something like that. It's a retarded idea for like 50 trillion different reasons.
Yeah, but how many retarded ideas have you seen so far in the last 2 months?
It's one that would require too much like effort on Trump's part to actually make it happen. I think if he could maybe and snap his fingers and do it, maybe he would. But I just feel like there's too much that we're going to be fighting over here on our side of the ocean, of the Atlantic, because of all the tariffs and everything. I don't know if Trump is going to have the will to also like focus so much on whatever crazy plans he wants with fucking Gaza.
We're gonna take Gaza. It's gonna be nice. It's a nice place. They have good beachfront property. Jared already bought a few condos. We gotta get rid of the Palestinians though. They kind of a downer. We're gonna get rid of the Palestinians. We're gonna just put them somewhere else. Put them in like some other shithole country, and then we're gonna take it with the Jews. The Jews are gonna be with us side by side. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this is delusional. But Trump is also delusional. But I don't know. It just seems I don't know. So much just seemed impossible. It's just too much work to do. If it was an easier way, he could snap his fingers and get it done. Then maybe. Like I think there's a higher chance that we actually capture territory from Canada or Greenland than there is that we do anything in Gaza right now.
I disagree with that assessment. Like we're not talking about putting American like active military personnel. We're talking about military contractors.
I mean, I think it's a similar thing. Like if we put a bunch of military contractors there, like if 30 Americans get killed in some terrorist attack, we're going to be like basically dug into that for however long. Like there's no way we can just walk away from that. So I think it's a similar risk assessment.
I put Greenland at like 99% chance it's not going to happen. I put this at more like 60% chance it's not going to happen.
Okay. I guess we'll find out.
We'll see. Time will tell. Going into this election, what percentage would you give in Kamala in terms of her likelihood of winning?
I think I was like 40, 60.
Oh, you thought 60% chance Trump will win?
Yeah, I think so. The inflation stuff was too heavy. I think those are the odds I gave. I think XQC wanted to put a big bet, and I think those were the odds I said. I think it was 40, 60, I said.
XQC thought that Kamala was going to win?
He just wanted to bet on it, and he was asking me what I thought the odds were.
Okay, that's interesting. So you kind of had a feeling from the start that just with inflation, that the incumbent party was going to get screwed.
Or for a variety of reasons, I guess, but yeah.
How do you...
Or wait, or maybe I was 60-4 Kamala? Somebody said I was 60-40. Maybe I was 60-40 for Kamala.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Maybe sure.
Yeah, we were not far off. I was 70-30. A big part of my confidence was based on the Seltzer poll that came out of Iowa, but obviously that one did not come to fruition.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty big one, yeah. But that's a good thing she's getting sued for it, right?
Yeah, fuck her. That's the last poll that bitch is ever going to do. What do you think? You've been talking to right wingers for quite a while. I think your strategy on it has changed. You used to be a little bit more mellow about it. Now you're very assertive about it, which I actually think is the right strategy. I think right now there's a divide on the left between like how do we deal with Trump. I think you have like the Chuck Schumers of the world, which is like, okay, let's kind of meet them in the middle, kind of work with them. And then you have like kind of like the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders, which is like, no, like these are all bad ideas. We're not going to, these people are not to be trusted. We're going to hold our ground. You've definitely adopted the latter strategy when you do debates. What do you think is the most effective way to communicate to a Trump voter?
I mean, it depends on if it's like a content creator or just like a random
Say a
like,
content creator
person. Okay, then it depends on if they're going to be really brutal or if they're going to be more calm, and it's going to depend on how big their platform is. So like if I was debating like a big conservative that's like very MAGA, like a Daily Wire type person or like a Tim Pool type person, I think I would be very, very, very brutal. It would be like very fact based. It would be very little patience for stupid shit. I think that would be the general demeanor I would take for that conversation. If it was somebody who was like maybe a little bit more like centristy or say they are and they actually are, then I'd probably be a little bit more gentle. But it would also maybe depend on the topic as well. If it's going to be over like tariffs or something, I'm probably going to be like fairly harsh. If it's going to be over like the deportation stuff, I'm going to be incredibly brutal. Yeah.
Okay. Do you find that, let's say you talk to 100 Trump supporters, do you think you'll be able to get any of them? And if so, which percentage to come over to your side?
Who knows? We'll see. I think all the conservatives are going to be turtled up until midterms, because right now they don't have to seek out any like adversarial conversations. Like I think most conservatives are just kind of like in their hug boxes right now. And if they start to feel pressure during the midterms or for some of these special elections, then they might come out more. But right now I think everybody's just kind of chilling.
I think the only way you can change the vast majority of Trump supporters' minds is if they experience some negative consequences due to his policies. Like if they lose their job, that then you can reach them. If their best friend gets deported, something like that. Yeah, like that's how you're gonna. If they're on Medicare and they lose Medicare, like they're on Social Security and their Social Security gets cut. Like that's how you. I think veterans, for example, now are getting like really pissed off with Trump due to all the cuts to the VA and whatnot. But they have to personally experience something.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000,000,000%. Until you, that's why, like people keep saying they're scared that like Medicare or Social Security is going to get cut. I don't think they're going to touch that, because I think that they know that if they were to do anything like that, then people would start to see really bad things happening immediately, and it would kill them electorally. So,
well, they're already cutting Medicaid. I mean, how far of a jump is Medicare?
I don't think anything there will be significant. They're talking about like waste, fraud, and abuse, but I don't think they're going to make big or significant cuts into that.
It's like an $800 billion cut to Medicaid in the budget.
Wait, a what?
In the Republican budget?
800. Did you say billion?
Yeah, I believe it's billion.
There's no shot. I don't even know how much of the Medicaid funding comes from like the federal government versus the states or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look into it.
I think a big part of it comes from the government.
Are you thinking Medicare or?
Guys, no. Medicare is old people. Medicaid is
old people.
Medicaid.
Sanjay, panelist weighs impact of 880 billion proposed. Oh, they've proposed Medicaid cuts. Was this for budget billion. Or?
Yeah, it's a budget. It's already passed. I believe was it the House or the Senate? I think the House. And now
this is okay. Also, sometimes for whatever reason they measure these things over longer time periods. So this is what it would be over a decade, or these are, and so it's like a resolution to target to try to cut it by 880 billion over a decade. So we'll see how much that actually bears out, basically.
I mean, I think the whole how much is the whole Medicaid budget? It's like $1 trillion and something. Like this is.
I don't know how much we spend on Medicaid. I'm more familiar with Medicare and Social Security, so I'm not sure actually.
I don't think Medicare is going to be touched, at least not yet. But Social Security, you kind of see the groundwork being laid down right now for the cuts. That's why they're making shit up about like, oh, these checks are going to, people who are 200 years old, which is not happening. Or you see, for example, right now for Social Security, they cut the phone line, which like, yes, I know, like us young people, we can do shit online, but old people, like they don't know how to use the fucking internet. So you already see like the groundwork being laid down to cut Social Security.
We'll see. I think they should, because it would be electorally fucking suicidal for them to do it. But so that's why I doubt they'll do it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. It would just be so bad if that actually started to happen.
Well, I mean, I think laying off a bunch of government employees is also really bad electorally. I mean, you're basically turning off a lot of people who voted for you.
Yeah, but you can like, one, it's not that many people that are being laid off, and it might not be targeted to like swing states. Like even if you lay off, 50,000 workers spread over how much of the U.S. and how many of these are even in like competitive areas, like you can get away with it. But if you start making like broad cuts to Medicare or Social Security, like old people are your biggest, most reliable voting base, and they're going to get super ultra ass pained. And
But then why cut the phone line that they have for? That's going to piss them off too.
It's probably easier to shuffle around the blame for that. Like phone line gets cut, it's really just because of government inefficiency or whatever other bullshit, they like to say. Conservatives will do things to sabotage government and then blame the inefficiency of government on what was really their fault. But
okay, yeah, it feels like you're actually a bit more optimistic than I am.
I'm fairly optimistic just because this has been like the thing that has always been our saving grace for as a Democrat, I guess, or the thing that's like always been the saving grace when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump is that he's very politically retarded. There are just so many crazy unhinged things that he's doing, and we're already seeing in like the special elections. I think they're getting like pretty toast.
There was one, yeah, where the Republicans.
Yeah. But I think in the upcoming ones, they're pretty fearful as well, and so. I think without Trump on the ticket, Trump obviously doesn't do anything good for Republicans. And so if Trump's not on the ticket, it seems like they're actually genuinely terrified of getting fucking stomped. So there's a world where Democrats don't do much and sweep 2026, or at least have a very strong showing in 2026. And then going into the election, especially if Trump is either too old or not there, like, I don't know, maybe I'm too hopiumed up, but we'll see. Or copiumed up, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Did you hear about this was pretty recent, the election fraud bill that's being proposed by right now, which would essentially make it impossible for women who change their last name to vote?
I haven't. No.
Okay, you should check that out. I'm not super familiar on all the details, but I know it's like a lot of people on the left are talking about it as like voter suppression, because you would need, I think, a birth certificate that matches your current name to vote. And a lot of women who get married, they change their last name, so they wouldn't be able to vote, basically.
Mm-hmm. That would be pretty shitty.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, Trump likes to play dirty. What do you think about this before we get to Q&A? So in the manosphere, I'm sure you probably noticed this during all your debates, there's this idea that voting for Trump or just being Republican is more masculine than voting Democrat, right? I think that's the reason a lot of people in the manosphere are pro-Trump, or at least go down that rabbit hole, and then I think they find their own reasons. I think that's an issue, that's the perception, which is that it's more masculine to it's like, oh, you're a bitch or you're a pussy if you're voting for Kamala. There's never like a real specific reason. It's just like, oh, Democrats, whatever, they're SJWs, they're just a bunch of blue-haired, no offense, bunch of blue-haired weirdos. What's your thoughts on that perception, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Democrats are just done a fucking piss poor job at signaling to especially young white men. They just seem to think they can ignore them completely and it won't matter that much. And I think that's probably backfired pretty hardcore on the Democratic Party. And then they're going to have to figure out a way to not be so like, the problem is that like the far left, like the progressive wokey people, they somehow they manage to hold like the Democratic messaging hostage sometimes, even though they don't support or vote for anybody in the Democratic Party. And Democrats just need to grow the fuck up and let go of that coalition, or not coalition, but just like small group of like very far left young voters, because they don't fucking matter, but they like convince themselves that they do. They're starting to wake up to this though. So
yeah, my thoughts are that the Democrats need to be go to the left on economic issues and go closer towards the center on social issues. And also that like the word trans should never be mentioned by any Democrat ever again. Like any trans issue is extremely just like hurts them to the nth degree. At the end of the day, if you want to help trans people, the best thing you could do is probably help the economy and make sure they have Medicare and make sure they have healthcare anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can talk about trans issues. You just need to be like not fucking retarded on it. Like, I think there's a world where you can say like, yeah, parents and children or adults should be able to figure out what's best for them and their, healthcare providers. But like trans athletes and all that shit is easy to say, yeah, this is probably retarded. At the very least, like, leave it up to the school district or something like that. Like, you don't have to die on the hill of men and women or trans trans women and cis women should be allowed to compete together at all points. It's such a loser of an issue, and Republicans just like salivate at the opportunity to bring that argument up over and over and over again.
In my opinion, the best policy if you want to win is just to not talk about it at all. And then whenever the right brings it up, be like, dude, are you fucking obsessed with trans issues? We don't even talk about this anymore. We don't care. I don't care about this. This is not something that's on my mind.
Well, I think you have to bring it up to some extent, because like Kamala tried not bringing it up ever. At the very least, you have to say what you said or something. You got to say something about it, because Kamala didn't bring it up at all. And Republicans like slammed her over and over again for something she said like in 2019. And yeah, and it's like,
but they were able to take advantage of the perception that like basically every Democrat is like pro like trans whatever playing in you know, high school basketball or something like that. There's that perception. It's not true. The vast majority of people on the left are not for that. But that's just the perception. And yeah, that statement she made about the people getting sex changes in prison in 2019 definitely did not help her.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats just have to be able to talk around these issues without feeling like they're tiptoeing constantly or having to like dodge minefields from conservatives, especially when there's so many good things to attack conservatives on now.
I think Tim Walz does a really good job reframing economic issues. Like,
yeah, he also just doesn't sound as afraid sometimes. Like Kamala Harris had a big problem sounding like focus tested with everything she said, or just like afraid of, yeah, just too afraid.
I think he's also a lot more likable and charismatic. There's like one video that he did where he basically sat down with like 10 Trump voters, and it was like changed their mind. And you could just see like the fucking, like how he was able to just charm them and kind of like speak to them in a way that resonated with them. And I believe actually it was reported that like half of them did not vote for Trump after that. I just think, yeah, I think like I just watched some of his interviews where they were like, hey, you know, you're kind of, you know, let's just say you're far left, right? He's like, okay, what's far left? Is it far left to give kids lunch so that they perform better? Is it far left to give the middle class a tax rebate? What's far left? And just no one was able to deal with that response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's generally a good response. Yeah.
All right, let's jump to some Q&A. Okay. 2025 Gay Odyssey, our favorite Trump supporter. Question for you: in Destiny, should January 6th get reparations in a lump sum over time? Nope, nope, and nope. I do think, I will say this, that there were some people that were arrested who were just basically there. I don't think those people should have been arrested. But the people who actually broke in, and especially the people who did violence, should still be in jail right now. Like, there's no way you should be able to attack a cop and be walking around 3 years later. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, they all went to, if you went to court for your thing and you lost and you got sentenced, like that's your court case. I don't know why any of those disgusting people would ever be pardoned or like given any reparations or anything whatsoever. That's insane to me, but.
You know, some of those people were pedophiles.
I mean, if in a group of that many people, I'm sure you're bound to find them anyway, right? One of the guys that attacked Rittenhouse was a pedophile, right?
Yeah. But it's crazy that there was no attention played to that. It's like, oh, these are just political prisoners. Like, dude, this guy's a career criminal. He's molested children. He attacked a police officer. Like, this is not just a good Samaritan that got caught up in something.
Yeah.
You know? Type of thing. But it seems like there was no like really distinction when they did the mass pardons, like between like the, you know, the criminals and the people who maybe were like just caught up or acted stupid that day. It seems like it was just a very blanket type of thing where like, yep, everyone just is good. Like there was a guy who like physically assaulted a cop, like all of that just got swept under the rug. Yeah.
Pretty yeah, it's, I mean, conservatives just take no responsibility for literally anything ever. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do about that. The fact that they can evade responsibility on literally every single fucking issue at all points.
The one thing they did hold Trump accountable for was the Epstein thing. For anyone not familiar, well, you saw a lot of that on right wing Twitter when basically Trump said he was going to release the Epstein files, and then he released something that was released 10 years ago by Gawker, and he just actually blurred more things out and pretending like that was the Epstein's files, and he got called within like 24 hours.
Yeah, but that wouldn't even be holding him accountable for it. That was just about releasing it. There are so many crazy convos that if they were about Democrats, people would lose their fucking minds. Like Epstein saying that Trump was his best friend and that he knew him so well and that they hung out so much. Like if these statements have been made about like Hillary or Podesta,
there's videos of them together. There's photos of them together. Apparently, the first time he banged Melania was on the Elite Express. Like they were close.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would be. There would be a lot of upset people if those standards were anywhere near the same on those two people. But between the Democrat and the Republican thing, yeah.
Okay, let me. You don't mind if I address some hater comments, right?
Knock yourself out.
Destiny is one of the biggest grifters in YouTube history. Why? Because he sticks with nose and Annie in every topic they can find in order to pay and extend his reach in terms of audience. What's your response to that?
I mean, I'm interested in a lot of topics. If I'm interested in a topic, I'll talk about it. If I'm not, I won't. I mean, is the accusation that I fake my interest in topics, or?
I believe so.
I mean, it's like a negative. Like, how can I ever respond? Like, what am I supposed to like? Nuh-uh. Like, if anybody's watched my stream for any appreciable amount of time, there's tons of stuff that would get me way more viewers that I don't talk about because I just don't give a fuck about it. The biggest example of this is fucking breaking news. I fucking hate covering breaking news, and I hate talking about breaking news. My audience like begs me for it all the time, and I just don't do it. I fucking hate it. I can't stand it. So the idea that I only cover stuff because I'm grifting. I mean, if you can find an inconsistent opinion or something that doesn't make any sense, I guess we can talk about it. But I feel like it's a kind of a weird accusation to make about me, given how much I stream and how open all my shit is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you said. Alex won't call out Destiny. What am I supposed to call him out for? Like, I need specifics here. What am I supposed to call him out for? His personal shit. Like, I already made a very long Twitter thread giving my thoughts on that. Like, yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to call him out on. The fact that he secretly voted for Trump, yeah, I've already talked to him about that, and that wasn't cool. But you know, he's learned. Okay, let's see what else. Okay. Take this deposit. Like, okay, here's one that I think that people would like you to address. Ask Destiny about his pickup and how he tries to get his fans off Discord and have sex with them by exposing his ex-girlfriend through DMs.
By exposing his ex? Wait, what? Ask Destiny about his pickup and how he tries to get his fans off of Discord, have sex with them by exposing his ex-girlfriend through DMs. That only worked one time, and it was with that chatter's mom. And after that, I never did it again because I realized that there's an unethical way to bang your viewers' moms.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else. I'm just enjoying the amount of waste there's been in government. How many billions of tax dollars did Dems assign themselves through BS NGOs? I'd like to see like a good example of that. Because a lot of the things that Elon or Trump have claimed to be waste, fraud, and abuse just turned out to be blatant lies, like things that didn't happen. The perfect example of that is the trans mice. Apparently, we're making mice trans, and that obviously wasn't what was happening. There's been like condoms for Hamas. Like, there's been lots and lots of examples of this. So I would like to see like a legit example of this, where there was a billion or even high amounts of millions that were discovered that were wasteful. I haven't seen any. Have you seen any?
No, I mean, like, if you are like if people were actually finding waste, fraud, and abuse, like they say they found like however many hundreds of billions, why has nobody been charged with a crime yet? That's like really weird, right? Like if you found legitimately like all this waste, fraud, and abuse, then that's a criminal action, right? To be fraudulent or to be abusive, and arguably waste can be, depending on how it's done. So where are the charges?
Yeah, I think also another important thing to mention is that like the idea of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse isn't novel. This is not something that just like came out. That's the job of Inspector General. Inspector General looks for waste, fraud, and abuse, and there was all these agencies had Inspector Generals. Now, Trump, for some reason, decided to fire all the Inspector Generals. Also, there was a office. It was called the
Office of Government Accountability, OGA.
Yeah, OGA.
Or the Government Accountability Office, GOA, sorry, whatever.
Yeah, whose whole job was to fight waste, fraud, and abuse. And somehow that was also cut. So, yeah, so I don't think this has ever been about just finding waste, fraud, and abuse. I think it's been about reversing policies that they don't like. That's my take.
Yeah.
Destiny and Alex have not said one wrong thing this whole stream. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Encore MAGA, I believe in free speech. Would you then hold Trump accountable for all his anti-free speech actions? The fact that he's suing CNN because he doesn't like how an interview was edited, the fact that he's suing a pollster because he didn't like their predictions, for the fact that he's basically targeting law firms of people who are either suing him or involved in any kind of legislation, and basically saying either you give me free bono work or I'm gonna fuck you over. Like, what part of, or when he says that flag burning should be punishable by up to a year in jail, which is constitutional protected free speech, or when he says, for example, Palestinian protesters are going to be deported even if they're legal residents. Like, clearly Trump, you may love free speech, but clearly Trump does not give a fuck about free speech. So I guess my question would be, how do you account for that?
You're asking the chatter right now, me, or?
Yeah, the chatter.
Yeah.
I think you would agree.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously, yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I've been at this for a decade now. I know Destiny and the left way too hard, and I was a commie. Destiny's a commie denial, but you can't break that. This is just
commie.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just laughable. Actually, my criticism of Destiny is that he's not far left enough on economic issues. Like, I'm to the left of Destiny on economic issues. When you said that this was a few months ago, that Kamala might be a little bit too far on the left for you, like my feeling was the opposite, that she's not far left enough on economic issues. I'm talking about specifically. So Destiny is very much a capitalist who believes in some regulation. Is that accurate?
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah. Zelensky thought he was somebody walking to a meeting. Zelensky was put there as Prime Minister of Ukraine by the U.S. He was. Can you address this? I think you know Ukrainian history better than I do.
No, it's just a lie that the Euromaidan in 2014 was basically a CIA coup, but there's no evidence for this, so it's impossible to even argue with the conspiracy theory on it because there's no evidence to argue about.
Wait, are you saying there's no evidence that America was involved in some ways?
Not in any substantial way, no. Everybody just points to one leaked phone call from Victoria Nuland that says that we would have preferred some opposition leader who didn't even win the elections after, like Yanukovych was ousted. So no, there's.
But we did give money, right?
Not really, no. I mean, there are people that have donated various amounts of dollars to various things in Ukraine, but the idea there was some specific organization that was being supported with the intent or purpose of coupping any part of the Ukrainian government. There's just no evidence of this at all.
Okay. I was under the impression that there was strong evidence. I would have to dig deeper into this, honestly, because this is something I've just heard.
Sure. A lot of people make this argument, but yeah, I'm pretty confident on that. I'm pretty confident. I'm like 95% confident on that, yeah.
China is friends with Russia. Why would EU go to Russia? Because they're tired of America, because they're not happy with America, because China can offer them more than America can. The whole idea of US aid, I think this is what a lot of people don't realize. They think it's purely altruistic and that we just want to, well, first of all, US aid to other countries is a fraction of 1%, just to put things in perspective. It's not like 10% like people think. But it's not purely altruistic. The idea is soft power. The idea is that, hey, we're going to, for example, go to Africa and we're going to give them, we're going to open up clinics there so that when, it comes time to make trade deals, they're going to be leaning towards America because they have a very powerful impression of America. As soon as America leaves, China comes in and does the same exact thing, right? It's soft power. And I think this is something a lot of people don't realize, but soft power is a really good way to avoid using hard power down the line. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I agree 100%. I think the eradication of U.S. aid is going to have probably long-lasting, far-lasting effects on U.S. relationships around the world, and it's just really, again, sad and stupid to see so much power thrown away for literally no reason whatsoever. There's just no reason. There's literally no reason. It's all just fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's a fraction of 1%. This is not a big percentage of our budget. This is not going to affect things in any way. It's a fraction of 1%. It's a very, very, very small amount of money. Very small amount. And a lot of it is also, just take the soft power thing aside. It's like dude, like you have like AIDS running rampant through Africa. Like if we can take a fraction of a percentage and prevent millions of people from getting AIDS, that's a good thing. If we can prevent Ebola being spread, which could potentially one day come to America, like that's a good thing. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it makes those countries like us and everything too. So it's just really dumb to see all of it get
Yeah,
shut
there's
off.
an altruistic perspective and there's a non-altruistic perspective to doing it. Can you guys talk about game and red pill? I mean, I don't know if there's anything like super interesting there. I feel like me and Destiny have already discussed this extensively. I think we've already kind of ironed out our disagreements. I guess I'll just ask this one question. It feels like lately for the last, I don't know, half a year, the red pill has been just on a downwards trajectory. It's just not as popular as it used to be. A lot of the red pill content creators have lost a lot of views and influence. What do you think about that?
I feel like a lot of it was probably made super popular by Andrew Tate and the Tates when like Andrew and Tristan when they came into the scene, and then probably like leaving the scene probably did a lot of damage. I think it's kind of a basic take, but I feel like it's probably pretty true.
Yeah. Alex thought Kamala was going to win election, so his predictions are pretty bad. I put it 70-30. I fully admit I was wrong. Yeah, I mean, I'm not known for my predictions. I'm not a I'm not a predictor channel where I make predictions. I never that was just something I said during a discussion. But yeah.
I mean, if you think that prediction is bad, the guy that donated probably still thinks that Trump won the election in 2020. So they're not that great at predictions either.
Maybe not, but yeah, I don't know. I sometimes miss being left. It's easier to talk to people because everyone agreed with me. Well, I'm noticing on the internet, like nowadays, it's cool to be a Trumper and it's not cool to be a Democrat. This was different when I was growing up in like 2008, 2006, 2012. Being a Democrat was cooler than being a Republican, but now it's the opposite. It's kind of flip flopped. That's why you see a lot of people like Eden Ross who don't know a single thing about politics. They no idea policy or anything like that. Endorse Trump, right? You just see a bunch of people who you can tell know nothing about policy endorse Trump. It's not because they have some kind of strong conviction, just because it's cooler. That's where the vibes are. I could easily get more views and more support if I just become a MAGA grifter and I say like, yeah, fucking liberals are just all a bunch of blue-haired weirdos who just want to fucking cut your dicks off. I feel like nowadays in this environment, maybe I think it's starting to change a little bit in the last 2 months, but especially in the YouTube manosphere scene, it's cooler to be a Trumper. What is your take on that?
Yeah, like when you hear somebody say like, "Oh, I'm not sure who I want to vote for. I don't know." Like that person's always voting for Trump. Nobody's like, "Oh, I'm kind of undecided. I'll vote for Kamala or Biden." Like all of the center leading guys, all the comedian dudes, like everybody became like a massive Trump dick suck. So yeah, and it's like even on the left, it's like not cool to say you would support Biden or Kamala. Like those people all support like fucking Bernie Sanders or some shit anyway. So it's like, okay, well.
What do you think about Joe Rogan? He was someone whose channel I used to watch a lot a few years ago. I thought he was someone that had integrity. He would say things like, yeah, like, look, Trump wants to go on my channel, podcast. I'm not going to bring him on. I just don't know enough about politics to push back. I don't want to use my platform as a way of, spreading a false message. He endorsed Bernie. He endorsed Bernie in 2020. What the fuck happened to him, in your opinion?
I have no clue. Some people say money, but I just feel like COVID broke a lot of people's brains, and I think a lot of people's political, like a lot of people's politics, is just defined by whoever bullied them last. And I think that, yeah, COVID and people making fun of him for Ivermectin and everything else, and just fucked Joe's mind up, and here we are.
Yeah, that was stupid, by the way, for those news organizations to make fun of him for that. Ivermectin is like not just like a joke. Like the Japanese health ministry approved it, in 2020, 2021 as a frontline treatment for COVID, and they're pretty conservative. Ivermectin is extremely safe, so that was kind of uncalled for. But yeah, I do agree with you that partially broke his brain. I think also he's just captured by his like Instagram algorithm. You know how it is. You start watching right-wing videos, you see one right-wing videos, you get more, and then you take a Trumper and you take your algorithms, and what you're going to see are going to be totally different. Like there's going to be very, very different. And you're going to be convinced that, it's like, oh, fuck, everyone is shitting on Democrats. Everyone is saying Trump is great, right? So you can get, I think that just some people don't have the wherewithal or the general intelligence to be able to kind of think that. And I think Joe's in that category. And I think, yeah, just the people who he surrounds himself with and the COVID thing. But yeah, that was like really disappointing to see because his show has become just basically the propaganda arm for the right. I mean, he'll have on just a bunch of billionaires, allow them to lie to his face, never corrects them, poisons the well for his audience. And you see him starting to lose popularity. He's no longer the number one podcast. That's Midas Touch, which is a left-wing podcast. So not my thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. For the record, because people get mad about saying, I don't think that the Japanese people ever. I don't think COVID is recommended to be treated by ivermectin. There might have been some brief period of time where they did, but I'm pretty sure up to this date, I don't think ivermectin has ever been shown to help with COVID at all. I guess people still shouldn't have been as mean to Joe Rogan about it, but I mean, he's a celebrity and he's like pushing a lot of these weird treatments. Like people got obsessed with the ivermectin hydroxychloroquine shit. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was pretty dumb for him to talk about it so much publicly, but
no, I know the Japanese health ministry definitely endorsed ivermectin at one point. I'd have to study to see if it's still something that they're endorsing, but I personally took ivermectin when I got COVID twice. It helped massively. I can tell you this.
Wait, how could you possibly know that it helped?
Because when I started taking it, I started feeling better.
Yeah, but like, what would have happened if you wouldn't have started taking it?
So yeah, I can tell you this is kind of anecdotal, but I have.
Well, no, but like, let's say you wouldn't have started taking it. Do you think you would have never gotten better?
No, I think I ultimately would have gotten better. I just think it
Okay.
would have taken longer.
How could you possibly know that?
Okay, so yeah, based on the fact that I have at this point at least 10 friends who've had COVID and who were really struggling, and then I gave them ivermectin and methylene blue, and they got better really fast.
Yeah, but like, if you wouldn't have given them anything, what would have happened?
Well, like for like the first 4 or 5 days, they weren't doing good. Like they were like bedridden type of thing.
Okay. I mean, like, if you don't give anybody anything, they'll get better. Like, that's what our bodies get better, right?
Yeah, but I just think it's a little too much of a coincidence. If like let's take one person. They've had COVID for 4 years. They're bedridden for 4 days. Doesn't look like they're really getting better. And then you give them something, and then within 24 to 48 hours, they're feeling significantly better. Okay, you do that once, that could be a coincidence. But you do that with 10 different people, like that is probably not a coincidence.
I guess I don't know why then it didn't show up in any medical research anywhere, because nobody was able to verify that it actually helped at the end of the day with.
I think there is a lot of research. I'd have to double check this. I wasn't expecting us to go the COVID route,
Sure.
But yeah, I'll look into it later and I'll send you some articles.
Okay.
Y'all clearly aren't up to date with the war, nor do you remember the amount of tariffs that haven't changed since after World War II. U.S. agreed to help them rebuild Europe, especially Germany. Tariffs on whose behalf? Do you know what he's talking about?
Not exactly. He's probably, I mean, I guess it's something to do with the fact that in the Reconstruction era after World War II, some domestic manufacturing for these countries was probably protected to some extent because the countries were literally fucking destroyed. So they needed some way to rebuild. But the status of the world at that point in time was way different than the world we live in now. So anybody that tries to make a comparison economically between policies that worked right after half the world was fucking destroyed to the time period we live in now is probably fucking retarded.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to make a distinction between specific targeted tariffs and broad tariffs. So you have, like, for example, a car company, right? You have a manufacturing car company, and there's a company in China that makes cars for 20% less. You put a tariff on that Chinese car for 25%. And especially if you invest on the other side, you invest more in U.S. manufacturing, that could be okay because the increase, because people are just going to buy from the U.S., right? Especially if you on the front end also have black card. That's very different than doing broad across the board tariffs, because you get retaliatory tariffs. That's a big issue. And also because some things we just don't make in the U.S. or we don't make well in the U.S. So that's the problem. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, like literally any way you cut it, tariffs are just a disaster when it comes to economic policy. There are hyper-specific examples where they might be useful, like kind of maybe in the scenarios you listed, but like right now, there's just no reason. Like the United States, like benefits so much from world trade right now. The idea of us ruining that for literally no reason is just beyond fucking stupid.
Yeah, just the problem with general tariffs is they get retaliatory tariffs. We've seen that, and yeah, I mean, like that just fucks things up a lot and drives up the cost. People who are really rich don't care about that. For someone like Elon Musk paying 25% more for whatever, it doesn't matter. Like that, it doesn't affect people who make over $1 million a year. But for
Well, it'll affect their businesses, but otherwise, yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, but still, they're going to be okay. But people living paycheck to paycheck, which is 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, for them, the price of shit going up by 25, 30%, that could mean the difference between them being able to afford to fix their car and not being able to afford to fix their car. So, yeah, it's a disaster. Here's an interesting question. Do you think there was election interference? So I think he's referring to 2024 election in terms of Trump using or the right using election interference.
Not really. I know some people have written articles on it. I haven't dug into it too deeply, so I don't really have strong opinions on it. But I don't know. Heuristically, I would just say probably not.
There was some investigative journalist. I think his last name is Palladio. That kind of dug deep into this. The claim is that the way it happened was through just a bunch of votes being thrown out. So it wasn't like there was like fake votes being cast. It was just that like there was a lot of valid votes that were thrown out in Democratic areas. And haven't dug super deep into it, but from what I saw, I don't think he's lying. I don't know if it would have swung the election, and they kind of did it, I guess, the semi-legal way. So there's nothing the Democrats can do. But yeah, the right does have a history of using legal interference to basically have a better outcome in the election. That's the whole point of like needing voter ID to vote or just all these laws they pass, is that because it's just going to make it harder for people who generally tend to lean left to vote. I think that's the whole idea. Or getting rid of mail-in ballots and stuff like that. It's not like there's a lot of fraud when it comes to this stuff. Like they've studied this pretty closely. There's not a lot of election fraud. It's not something that's significant, but
yeah, I think it's pretty hard to do fraud on that level. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have. My veteran friends were already let down by the VA. Yeah, so am I, actually. Yeah, like my veteran friends, some of them who I think were like either center or even voted for Trump are not happy right now. It isn't crazy that we treat like veterans like such shit, especially the right. Like the right, like virtue signals, we love our veterans, but they literally just don't give a fuck about them. The fact that, all the jobs that are being cut in the VA, all the support, the suicide phone line that's being cut, like just all the shit that's being cut that helps veterans is just insane from the party that says that they love veterans.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Conservative Party is pretty fucking horrible. I'm not going to disagree. Yeah.
Would you agree with this take that if you serve this country for some time, like 4 years or whatever, that you should never be homeless?
Probably, yeah. For 4 years, does that mean the government should take? I mean, I don't think that's a hard one because, like, I don't think anybody should ever be homeless. I feel like we have enough abundance in the United States that it's like a political will or resource problem if we haven't figured this out at this point. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody should be homeless. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the government, I mean, like in theory, no one should be homeless, but the government should guarantee like homes. Like, hey, if you serve for this many years and you make this amount of income, we're going to give you not a home probably, but an apartment or something, so you're not on the street.
Sure, maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if there are resources for it, yeah. But I mean, Biden passed the PACT Act, right, to try to help with veteran stuff. But
I mean, that was very
part of the government,
Yeah, that was very specific. That was with the with pit burns. Which, funny enough, initially Republicans voted against that. They did not want to give veterans health aid for the ones who got really horrible burns. It was only after Jon Stewart like basically shamed all of them that they changed their vote on that, which is a fun fact that I don't think anyone on the right knows. But yeah. Okay, let's see what else we have. Kamala had California men pass their release days so she could use them for prison labor. That is true. That is unfortunate. There's a solid advice. That's solid advice. If one of the reasons I left, no, there are no trends. Everything you must stop or we'll make you relevant over time. Okay.
Wait, I just ordered food. Give me 1 second. I want to go grab it. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, go for it. So Destiny's using the word retarded. I think he's always been using that word. Democrats are less masculine because the anti-working class stream over. Okay, this is just pure delusion. The party that cares, like I will say this, that both parties don't do enough, but the parties that does more for the working class is very objectively Democrats. The right don't give a fuck about the middle class at all. And there's clear evidence of this. So if you look at the Trump endorsed tax plan that's being pushed right now, is that it would give massive amounts of tax cuts, about 1 trillion, to people who are the top 1%. But the average middle class person will see their tax revenue increase by about $1,000 a year. Not super massive amounts of money, but still significant. Like the middle class, on average, will see their taxes go up. You see this with Doge cutting the Consumer Financial Bureau, whose whole job is literally to help people who've been scammed get their money back. They've gotten $20 billion back for working class people who were scammed by banks and all of that. Now that they made it harder to join unions, for example, unions are the big thing that help middle class people make more money. Cutting Medicaid, which is something that a lot of people benefit from. And there's so many examples of the right not giving a fuck about the middle class. If we go to the left, for example, we just take a look at various policies that happened during the Trump administration, during the Biden administration. We see, for example, manufacturing going up under Biden. Like under Trump, his first term, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Under Biden, we gained about 600,000 to 800,000 manufacturing jobs. We see the CHIPS Act, which was going to create high-paying jobs for to people to develop microchips, which will also drive the prices down for for car companies and whatnot. We saw the Interest Reduction Act, which actually had nothing to do with interest, but had a whole bunch of provisions in there that were designed to help the middle class. We saw the raising minimum wage for all federal workers. We saw of putting someone who's much more pro-union on the National Labor Relations Board. We just saw example. I agree that Biden didn't go far enough, but yeah, it's not close. What's your response to this?
I think it's not that big of a deal. I think people focus on it way too much, and there's like other stuff that's probably like a bigger effect.
No, like the claim that.
I'm sorry, hold on. I have no idea what you were just talking about. My bad. What were you talking about? I just made that up.
Yeah. That Democrats are less masculine because they're anti-working class.
No, I think a lot of it just comes from like the stupid woke fixation on the Democratic Party, and then the right capitalized on it really well.
Can you give some examples why the Democrats are more pro-working class than Republicans?
I think that Democrats tend to be more protective of the social services that working class people are more likely to take advantage of. Like wealthy people aren't going to be using stuff like Medicaid and shit as much. Working class people are probably going to be more likely to benefit from or require the use of like student aid or federal funding for things like FEMA, like disaster relief. Like I will never need FEMA in my life. Okay. I'm rich. I'll just move or leave or whatever the fuck. But like poor people probably need access to those federal funds.
Oh yeah. Trump just
and things stuff like student loans. It just like, I think funding of social services in general are usually beneficial. And then things like protecting things like labor unions or like pushing for a higher minimum wage. These are all things that Democrats tend to focus on more than conservatives.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
Oh, like expansion of child tax credit, not doing it. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you give me 30 seconds? I'm just gonna get something.
Sure thing, bud. It's a catastrophe. I ordered an all-meat pizza and they gave me fucking pepperoni. Kill me.
Let's go to the next question. What do you think about Joe pardoning the kids for a cash judge? Do you know what this is about?
Nope.
I'm not familiar. Can you clarify, please? Alex, you're overlooking gay January 6ers like Brandon Strucker, who didn't know he was part of January 6th. Yeah, I mean, I initially, when I started talking about this, I said that I think there were some people that were swept up who didn't really do anything, who didn't deserve.
Every single time I've looked up a case where somebody has given me something where somebody was unjustly held, they ended up always being like some of the worst offenders. So what was that guy's name? Brandon Straka?
Yeah.
He said he didn't know he was at January 6th.
He didn't know he was part of like whatever the riot.
Somebody said, so maybe this article is lying, but I just Googled one and I'm saying he was convicted in 2022 of a misdemeanor disorderly conduct charge. Straka was a speaker at a rally that day and, according to prosecutors, posted a live video at the U.S. Capitol where he can be heard yelling, "Go, go, go."
Oh, okay.
So wait, who donated or put that message in chat? Is this the guy that you said didn't do anything? Every single time somebody's giving me a name from one of these subhuman, degenerate, knuckle dragging fucks, and every time I look up their case, it should have been capital punishment for all of these people. But every time I've looked them up, they've always been like some of the biggest offenders in this case. Almost all of them are disgusting lying filth, like all of it. So yeah,
you're totally trolling about the capital punishment, though, right?
Oh, I'm not punishment for being at the Capitol. Sorry.
Lols. Okay. Will you and Destiny ever debate Rollo again? Me and Destiny never debated Rollo together. We debated him separately. I don't know. I don't think he'll ever debate me again. I think that's been made pretty clear to me. I don't know. Destiny, will you ever debate Rollo again?
Probably not. What does that guy even do now?
Same shit he's always done, I assume. Playing with fire. His personal shit's very low, and if he's talking about men. Yeah, Destiny did a really detailed video in regards to this. How can people find it? I remember seeing it when it came up. That detailed breakdown
on my YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do people want me to talk about my personal shit every single time I go on anywhere to talk to anybody? Like, listen, what do you want me to say?
Destiny did do, I think, a really good job in that video. He bought a lot of receipts, so check that out. He kind of breaks everything down.
Also, we're not talking about men right now. Although the people that say that shit are literally simp for fucking Andrew Tate, who basically walked through how to sex traffic 101. So spare me the fucking fake tears, okay?
Can you ask Destiny if he tried to set up a debate with Charlie Kirk or Milo knows he can have whatever host it?
Yeah, I would. Oh. Yeah, I would debate either of those guys, 100%.
Here's an interesting question. Can you ask him his thoughts on JFK magic bullet theory and how the single bullet hit different targets and came out without any significant damage? Good question.
Everything I've seen on the JFK stuff makes it look like the official story is probably correct, but I haven't read a book on it or anything. So
I totally disagree with you on that. I wrote a paper on this in high school. Yeah, I don't buy the official story, but that's a whole side tangent.
Okay.
Under Trump, what do you guys think happens with Russia and Ukraine war?
Without Trump or
under Trump? With Trump.
I mean, he's just trying to get Ukraine to surrender basically fully and unconditionally as quickly as possible.
I think that there's going to be a peace deal is going to involve Ukraine giving up all the conquered territory. I don't know if there's going to be any security guarantees for Ukraine, which is the thing they seem to want the most. Yeah, But maybe there won't be. Maybe there won't be. I don't know. I'm not really sure how it's going to go. I do think that this war needs to end, and there should be a ceasefire and a peace deal. But it has to. There definitely needs to be security guarantees for Ukraine. It can't just be like, okay, Russia gets to keep this territory, and then we just move on. Because like there needs to be some kind of security guarantee.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think they'll get it from Trump.
Probably not. No. If you're to the left on economic issue, distribute your YouTube money to me. Okay, there's a big difference between being a communist and believing in things like billionaires should pay the same tax rate as people in the middle class. There's a big difference between being a communist and believing in just redistribution of income, which I clearly do not believe in, and believing that everyone in America should have health care, that we should not have the worst healthcare system out of all the developed countries, where we spend more on medicine and get worse outcomes. That we don't, for example, that we just have so many people who are homeless, for example, and we have just a system that basically where like the poor get poorer, the rich get richer, and the middle class just seems to get worse and worse and small every year. So very big thing, very big differences. Okay. Alex, you're gonna feel safe from Russia to fall some visa working about news, so the girls don't ask like, do you think that comes off a bit insecure? No, it just the vast majority of Americans have never heard of Belarus. They don't know what country that is. So to simplify things, I just say I'm from Russia. Our language is the same. Our culture is the same. Belarus is effectively controlled by Putin. So yeah, I see it as very close to the same thing.
It's like when I said I lived in LA. Like I don't think I actually ever lived in LA. I lived in Glendale, then Culver City, then Huntington Beach, but we just say LA because it's
Yeah. All right, let's do a few more questions. That was an interesting question. Ask Destiny if there was any conspiracy they found out was actually true as time went on.
Probably the J6 stuff.
No, but seriously.
Yeah, there was a full-on conspiracy by Donald Trump and his friends to coup the government.
Yeah, but you didn't know that from the start?
I didn't pay much attention to it at the start. It wasn't until a friend pushed me on it in 2022 that I started to do a lot more reading into it. Any of the big ones, the problem is there's been so many people that have dove into those. I'm never going to be the one to unmask something, I guess. So
standing up to defamation is the same as anti-free speech. Is there present aggression of those words include Trump's lawsuit rather than that? Again, what is the defamation in suing CNN?
This guy's lying, and he's got Trump cum dripping down his face.
What is the defamation in suing CNN because you don't like the way they edited a Kamala video? That's my question. Did Fresh and Fit split, and what's your guys' take on Fresh and Fit in general? I believe they're still together, even though they both have their own channels now. I think it's pretty clear they don't like each other for obvious reasons. I think.
Wait, did they actually split?
I don't think so, but I think they both created new channels. But I still think they do their thing. But
you might just be exploring different styles of content. They could both gravitate towards different things.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear when you watch their long form content that they just don't like each other. You can just to me, it's super obvious that they just are not digging each other anymore. From Iron's perspective, he's thinking look, I fucking built up this whole thing. You do very little work. This whole thing relies on me. From Fresh's perspective, it's hey, we had this good thing going, and you have to fuck it up with all the Jew stuff and all the conspiracy and the politics stuff. And they both have good points. Yeah, I mean, I think that Red Pill in general is on the way out. I think people got a little tired of their whole concept, which essentially is the same thing over and over again. Just bring on a bunch of bimbos, call them out, shit on them, type of thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like Red Pill's been dead for a year or two. I think since the Tates left, it got pretty fucked. Pearl and everybody died. It was really just Fresh and Fit.
Yeah, I think it was really stupid for them to go down the race and the Jew road. It was really dumb, and basically everyone including their mothers, knew that they were going to get demonetized, and it happened. I'm surprised they didn't get kicked off of YouTube. Honestly, they were going really hard with that. But yeah, they're lucky they just got demonetized.
Yeah.
All right, let's do like 2 or 3 more. Well, Democrats are pro working class because they gave federal workers a pay raise. Well, it's better than increasing taxes on the middle class. Yeah, I would say that was about 300, 400,000 people potentially. There was other things like bringing back manufacturing.
Who are they? I'm always curious these brokies that like defend like the huge like tax cuts. Like, what does Phoenix do for work that he thinks that like the Trump admin is benefiting him so much?
There's a saying, it's by a famous author, I forget who it is, but it's something like
They never see themselves as poor. They always see themselves as temporarily dispossessed millionaires or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Who's that from?
I don't know, but I know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Joe, what do you think about Joe pardoning his son after he said he wouldn't interfere? I mean, obviously, he shouldn't have said he wasn't going to interfere. I don't blame him for pardoning his son. I would probably do the same thing. I would pardon a family member. But yeah, he shouldn't have said that he's not going to do it, that he wouldn't interfere. That was obviously a lie. I don't think it's nearly as bad as some of the pardons Trump did. But yeah, that's my take.
I feel like he's been fully vindicated on it. The Republicans have shown that they have no morality. They have no problem weaponizing the DOJ worse than we've seen in the entire history of the United States of America. And had he not pardoned him or anybody else he pardoned, then this Trump admin has already shown that it will go after anybody that they deem as enemies of the administration. And yeah, I think he was fully vindicated on it. I think he should have.
Yeah, but 2 wrongs don't make a right.
I mean, I don't think it was wrong. The conviction was fucking retarded anyway. Like, all these Trumples that talk about like gun rights and everything are championing the fact that this guy, that the Republicans like were thirsting at the mouth to find some Burisma shit on. That was all fucking bullshit and all fake. But they managed to get a conviction on this guy because of taxes that he'd already paid back to the federal government, and because of the fact that he like smoked crack and bought a gun around the same time. Like, you guys should all be cheering for Joe Rogan to get arrested and thrown in prison because he smokes weed sometimes on his show, and you know that he owns guns, so he's convinced he's done the exact same crime Hunter Biden has. So it's fucking bullshit.
That's a good point. Yeah, I do agree the conviction was bullshit. The part I would take, I don't see there's anything wrong with Joe pardoning his son. I think that's what most people would do. The part that I think I would take small issue with, not a big issue, is the fact that he said he wasn't going to do it. So that was a lie.
Yeah, I mean, he probably shouldn't have said that, sure.
Yeah. Playing with fire. I think everyone should pay the same tax rate, 0%. Okay, it's interesting when people think like this, because so then you either believe that we should not have a military at all. There should be 0 military, right? There should be 0 anything at all in America. But just let's stick with the military example. There should be 0 military. So that means that obviously other countries are going to come in and start taking territory from us, because why would they not? So, or you believe that we should have really, really high taxes on goods. So like when you purchase something, you should pay a 200% tax on that. And I don't even think that would make up for the difference. You just have to either be like, no federal government, no military, like America's just going to be right for the picking, or we're going to like charge some insane sales tax that's just going to be like through the roof.
Yeah, I don't know how you raise money for a government at all. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. If both of you can pick one person in the world on your podcast to interview or debate, who would that be and why?
Elon Musk, just to show how much of a fucking moron he is. And it would just be asking him basic questions about the government or confronting him on the 400 different things he's lied about in the past 2 months.
If we're talking about dead people, I would love to interview George Washington. If we're talking about people who are still alive, I would be curious to interview to interview Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. I would be curious to interview Bernie Sanders. I would be curious to interview Tim Walz. If it was a debate, then yeah, Elon Musk would be great. I think Joe Rogan would be great to debate. Yeah.
I want to debate Hitler then. If we can pick dead people, I'm just kidding.
I don't think he spoke any English.
Oh, true. Maybe not.
Okay, here's an interesting question. Can you ask Destiny if he was president, how would he solve the Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine war?
Israel Palestine is easy. You make a big box of nukes and you take them to Jerusalem and you tell the Israelis and the Palestinians that they have to engage in 2 months of negotiations. And if they can't reach a peace agreement by the end of the 2 months of negotiations, you like open envelopes and you see who was willing to give up more. And whichever side was willing to give up more gets the box of all the nukes and they get to blow the other side up. For Russia, Ukraine, we should just literally go no-fly zone over Russia, tell them we're going to blow up all their troops and blow up all their people until they leave. And then when the whole world cries about nuclear war, we can say, well, if Putin wants it, then good luck. And then
wait, really? Are you trolling right now with Russia?
No, I'm serious. I think it's ridiculous that Russia can do whatever they want. And we all have to say like, oh, what about nuclear war? Oh, what about nuclear war? What? Like, is Russia really going to start deploying nukes for an offensive operation? I don't believe it. And I think it's bullshit that the rest of the world is the one that always has to make a difficult decision. Make Putin make a difficult decision for once in his life.
I mean, I totally disagree with that.
Or no-fly zone over Ukraine, not Russia, sorry.
Okay, that makes it a bit better, better than no-fly zone across Russia. But the way, I mean, they do these game scenarios where they kind of play out how this is going to work. And it always starts off with like an incident, like even sometimes one that people didn't expect. Like one plane gets shot, and within like 3 days, in every scenario, it escalates to all-out nuclear Armageddon. Like, really?
Nah, I don't think that would happen because nobody wants it. Putin doesn't want to nuke anybody. The U.S. doesn't want to nuke anybody. I don't think.
But then a plane gets shut down. Then someone launches a missile that's a little bit more of an escalatory strike on a ship. And then
I think when you have big powers like that fighting, people don't do escalatory strikes. You do retaliatory strikes that are proportional in nature. It happened in Iran when we killed Soleimani. They bombed an embassy. We bombed a whatever. It happened with
Soleimani
Israel.
was not proportional to us in any way in terms of the military.
Iran did a proportional return strike. Yeah.
No, I'm saying, but they were not an equal power to us. They don't have any nuclear weapons.
Well, sure they don't, but I'm saying that in general, people will follow the rules of proportionality. It's not like if I would agree that if we were attacking into Russia, they might do some crazy shit, but Russia doesn't want a nuclear war over an offensive war. Like they would lose the support of literally everybody. China wouldn't back them. Nobody would back them. They'd just be seen as fucking insane. I don't even know if Putin would be able to do it or if he would get assassinated by an oligarch.
I think he has a really tight grip on power in Russia.
Yeah, but that's under the assumption he's not going to blow the whole world up, right?
Well, I mean, like sometimes, like, yeah, like you hit that button, you hit the nuclear button, you know, like the consequences for you come later, but actually, you know, the whole world is going to eventually blow up. My solution
right now, the road that we're on is a road to nuclear disaster. The idea that if you tell people that as long as you have nuclear weapons, saber rattling will allow you to capture an unending amount of territory and everybody will appease you over and over again. Appeasement doesn't work. We've seen it historically. Right now, the path we're on is a path towards nuclear warfare. If Russia is taught and other countries around the world are taught that if you invade other countries, there's going to be severe repercussions, then it means that other countries will see that as a deterrent and they won't invade other countries. But right now, what we're teaching Russia is you can invade countries and take them over because using the logic you're using, Russia should invade Poland next because why would we fight back? It would be nuclear warfare, right?
So, yeah, so Russia has already faced extreme consequences. There's been massive amounts of tariffs. You've seen, for example, their military force being spent. This whole thing has been an embarrassment for Russia. Yeah, like this.
Yeah, but
Russia,
if they win, Putin gets to walk away. Dictators don't lose wars. If a dictator loses, then they're deposed. They get kicked the fuck out. They have to be able to walk away saying it was a win.
It's not black and white as losing and winning. There's different degrees.
It depends on how they sell it to their audience, though, right? To sell to their fandom. Putin will be able to sell this war as a major W if they literally get to steal territory from another sovereign European country. That's insane. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. That should be an absolute no-go.
Not to the families of Russian soldiers, right? Like
nobody gives a fuck about the families. Putin doesn't care about them. He cares about the families of the oligarchs that keep him in power and the people with the powers of like political leverage in Russia.
Yeah, I disagree with the solution. I think a better solution would be to do this. Actually, kind of similar to what you proposed with Israel and Palestine, but without nukes. Basically, you go to Putin and you say, "Hey, listen, we're going to need you to agree to a peace deal that's going to involve security guarantees for Ukraine." And And if you don't, we're going to give much more military support to Ukraine. You do the same thing with Ukraine, but with withdrawing military support, and you basically force both countries to come to the table and negotiate something that's going to give security guarantees to Ukraine. I think in terms of the captured territory, I think the best way to go is just to allow the people in those territories to vote, but not like the way Russia did it, where it was obviously corrupt, but something that's monitored by the UN, and the people of those territories decide whether they want to be part of Ukraine or Russia.
Sure, but why wouldn't he just invade Poland next then, or try to peel off territory from other European countries?
Well, because where can he go? He can go to Moldova. That's the only non-NATO country.
Why wouldn't he just go to a NATO country?
Well, because that would be like instant suicide.
Why? Because he is attacking a NATO country, and they're all Article 5 means they're all going to defend each other. Why would we defend them though? Couldn't that lead to nuclear war?
Well, I don't think Putin wants direct war with the West.
Maybe not, but like we're not going to fight because all the same arguments about nuclear war are going to be there, right? If Putin doesn't want confrontation with the West, then why wouldn't the West say if you attack Ukraine, you're going to have to deal with us?
Because I think he knows that if he attacks a NATO country, that the West will be forced to respond whether they want to or not. There will be.
Shouldn't that feeling be there no matter who you attack?
No, because some countries are a lot harder to bully than other countries. Like, for example, America had no qualms about attacking Iraq, that nothing was going to happen, but they would have massive qualms about attacking China or something like that. Some countries are just a lot tougher than other countries.
Yeah, why can't an American-backed ally be a tough country like Ukraine? Like, why couldn't we tell Ukraine? Like, what do you think would realistically happen if we had told Russia, hey, you need to leave, or we're going to start like doing no-fly zones over Ukraine, and we're going to bomb your troops in Ukraine? Do you think Russia would have started launching nukes in an offensive war?
I don't think it would happen that fast. I think that the problem is that Putin is so invested, and I would argue that his life is even invested in the outcome of this war. Like, if Russia just gets totally 100% humiliated and has to pull back everything and give up all the territory, right, then Putin is probably going to lose power and probably going to lose his life. So for him, it's an existential threat. And so at that point, he's like, well, I'm going to die if I do this. I'm better off playing chicken with the West. And so he's going to be more defiant.
Sure, but isn't this where a good negotiator, somebody who could actually negotiate peace, come in? Like, there's a world where Russia, I don't know what this will look like on paper, but there's a world where like Russia gets a 99-year lease on Sevastopol. Maybe Crimea is even guaranteed to be autonomous. The rest of the territory in Ukraine goes back to Ukraine. Russia's sanctions are lifted, and they're not like billed for the damage that's in Ukraine. There'd be some joint European fund created. Putin gets to walk back to Russia with his head held high, saying, well, we guaranteed access to the Black Sea for the next 100 years. Russian navies will always be able to sail even in the winter because of our lease in Sevastopol now, and blah, blah, blah. And Zelensky and Ukraine will get to maintain their territorial integrity. Like, Russia will know, even if he sold it to a win, even if Putin sold it to a win, he'll know that if he fucking invades some people again, he's going to get his fucking shit pushed in. As opposed to right now, the world is taught everybody that as long as you're big enough, you can take over whoever you want. And if you have nukes, you can always get away with it. So I don't know if that means Pakistan or India or China or anybody else, like, let's invade some people. Well, no one's going to do anything because everybody's a big pussy because somebody's got a nuke that they'll saber rattle about.
Well, I mean, first of all, America has reinforced that idea by herself with all the saber rattling when it comes to Greenland.
Well, we haven't saber rattled. We haven't saber rattled nukes.
Not nukes, but we have, okay, maybe saber rattle is the wrong word, but with all the threats about Greenland, that we might.
That's bad. We shouldn't have done that either. That's really retarded.
But then we go on before that, we have the war in Iraq. Like, no consequences to us. Ultimately, we didn't take any territory. Yeah,
we can say Iraq was a mistake, but the idea that we made a mistake, this like Iraq trauma, the Americans have to get the fuck over it. It can't just be because we made one mistake in Iraq, we're going to compare ourselves to fucking Putin, right?
No,
after the Chechen civil wars, after the Syrian civil war, like that's just unhinged. Iraq was a mistake, but
no, but I think America for a very long time has reinforced the idea that might makes right.
Sure, but then why right now we're not saying might makes right? Because Russia is not the mighty one here. The United States is. We have the opportunity to set the moral landscape of Europe, and we're abdicating that to Putin. Would you rather have America saying our might makes right, or would we rather have Russia saying our might makes right? Because right now we're allowing Russia to do it. Like, we are the might. I don't know why we're not acting like it.
I mean, Russia is also might in its own right, right? Like, they have a shitload of nukes, enough nukes to blow up the whole world.
Yeah, but they're not going to use nukes in an offensive war. If we were invading Moscow or pushing into Russian territory, then that would be a real concern. But in an offensive war, the whole world, it would be BICS afterwards. Everybody, Brazil, India, Russia, like everybody, or China, South Africa, everybody would drop Russia in a heartbeat. Nobody's going to support Russia using nuclear weapons in an offensive war against Ukraine.
It would never get that far, because if Russia uses nuclear weapons, we're ultimately going to use nuclear weapons back. And then before you know it, you have nuclear Armageddon. That's the problem.
Okay, wait. If that's the logic, then Russia should just invade Poland and take it over. I don't know why. If that's your logic, that it's all going to be instantaneously over, then why would they just invade a NATO country? Because it seems like you're saying that we always have to run away because of the nuclear saber rattling. Instantly button.
Let's not straw at me. I'm not saying we should run away. I think that there's a calculus that Putin does in his head, and the calculus is that I don't think he wants to die. Right? That's his thing. He doesn't want to die. That's just probably number one thing, is himself. And that if he attacks a NATO country, that even though America does not want to go to direct war with Russia, America will have to.
We won't have to, though. The same people who are making the same arguments that, well, what about nuclear war? Do we want to nuke the world over Poland, over Estonia?
Just let me finish. He in his mind, and I think this is true, that he will say that America, due to Article 5, will have no choice, even if they don't want to attack. Even if they're worried about nuclear Armageddon, they'll have no choice but to respond with a pretty aggressive strike. Now, that's a bit different.
If we defend Ukraine?
Ukraine is more up in the air. Ukraine is not part of NATO.
Putin will not nuke anybody in Ukraine, over Ukraine.
I'm not saying that's how it will start, but I'm saying that, like, I think that, I don't know about the Donbass region, but if we try to push Putin out of Crimea, I think he will see it as an existential threat, and he will be like, okay, if I lose everything here, then I'm going to get assassinated by my own generals anyway, right? I'm going to be seen as weak, which is a big no-no in Russia. So at that point, fuck it. I might as well risk it all, right? I think that's how his mind is going to work, especially if you try to push him out of Crimea.
Well, his mind right now is working in that I can invade any non-aligned state in the world and nobody will stop me. Is that the record we want to have? Is that?
Well, it's not as black and white as that. We have taken massive actions to stop him. We've trained we've trained Ukrainians. We've given them very advanced weapon systems.
But there's a billion things more we could do, right? Like the Republicans have been like pulling the leash on us the entire time. We haven't opened up our armories to the Ukrainians. Like, it was like pulling teeth to get them to send anything to them. Like,
I mean, we sent a lot to Ukraine. Yeah, I understand there was like that pause. I think the only way Ukraine can get that territory back is with NATO or American boots on the ground. I think their primary problem is manpower. They just don't have the manpower. Even us giving them even more weapons won't significantly change anything. I think it's a bloody war. I think that way too many people have died, and that I think the war has to end. It's time to end the war, but you do want to end it in a way that will prevent the war from happening again, which again goes back to security guarantees.
Okay. I mean, I totally disagree. I think that if they are allowed to conquer 20% of Ukraine's territory, I think you've undeniably, and I don't even think a reasonable mind could disagree, you've shown Russia that they're allowed to conquer people as long as it's an unaligned state. Like, if anything, we could argue that 2022 happened because of 2014, right? And there was no huge punishment for Crimea. You can argue that there were sanctions or whatever else, but Russia's shown that it's willing to endure them for victory in conflict. And what, are we going to sanction them indefinitely after the war is over? You know that Trump is eager to lift those sanctions immediately. So I just think that's the rules that we're crafting for the world, basically.
Yeah, just because Trump is not handling this issue well, it doesn't mean that's like the position for peace. I think there are different things. Yeah, sure.
Like, if you're China and looking at Taiwan, if China invades Taiwan, every argument you're making right now, like, China just gets Taiwan for free then, right?
Well, America's policy under the Biden administration has been to be relatively ambiguous when it comes to this. Like, yeah, we're gonna help Taiwan. Okay, but like, will you go to war with China? Well, we'll see what happens. It's been relatively ambiguous to just kind of keep China on their toes and act as a deterrent. It's a lot easier to prevent things. It would have been a lot easier to prevent this war than to fix the war, right? This war.
Yeah, but right now, America is selling to the rest of the world that if you're a nuclear power, we're not going to intervene.
Well, we have intervened in a lot of ways.
No, we haven't. Not in Ukraine.
Well, we have given them massive amounts of weapons.
Do you think shipping weapons over the Pacific is going to help Taiwan fight against China?
I've seen game scenarios for that war. I think it's going to be a very hard conquest for China. Due to the fact that a lot of people don't know this, but Taiwan actually has been prepping for this for a very long time. I think it'll be a very tough conquest. I don't know how it's going to go because no one really knows how good the Chinese military is because they haven't been tested.
Wouldn't it be better if they did know though? What if they knew that if they tried to take over Taiwan, that fucking US F-35s would be needling the fuck out of every single troop they sent there? Like, wouldn't that be good for them to feel? And then it would kind of discourage that. Maybe they wouldn't see that as a viable option.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing for them to feel, but I don't think it's worth chancing nuclear Armageddon with Russia to create this feeling.
Okay.
We don't disagree like massively, but we do disagree about to what extent America should go.
Well, I think that your world, in every sense of the word, it's leading to a world. Like, if you're Ukraine after this war, Ukraine is not getting any security guarantees from the United States, not from Trump. So if you're Ukraine, the next step that you have to take,
yeah, but I believe you should get security guarantees.
That's fine, but Ukraine is now going to try to procure nuclear weapons. We might guess you should, right? So now we've just increased nuclear proliferation. More countries and non-aligned countries will have nukes, and that's the rule that America is setting for the world. Because if you get invaded, if you're not part of NATO directly, then your shit is fucked. So you should get nukes. That's what your policy is telling other countries. You should have nuclear weapons. Otherwise, you're just going to get invaded by a bigger guy with nuclear weapons who's going to be able to say,
Ukraine would have been much better off if they didn't give up their nukes. Like,
yeah, but we don't want people to think that. What we should have people thinking is, if I invade a sovereign state, my shit is going to get pushed in by the United States. That's what the thought should be.
I don't think it's as simple as that.
I do. I think it's really simple.
I don't think it's as simple as that. And I think that nuclear war with Russia is the absolute worst case scenario. There's nothing.
Yeah, but everybody agrees with that. Everybody thinks nuclear war is bad. Russians think that. Putin thinks that. His oligarchs in general think nobody wants to start launching nukes.
You're worried about it a lot less than I am. Like,
no. Your world will lead to a world where nuclear war is more likely, right? Like, if we just give Hitler Poland, or we just let him do Czechoslovakia, whatever the fuck he conquered first, like, if we just give him these things, he'll stop. What did that do?
Well,
I mean, it just...
okay, but historically what you're saying is not, like, supported. If we look at the Cuban Missile Crisis, what did we do during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
During the Cuban Missile Crisis, we saw boats going to Cuba, and we said, we're stopping this literally no matter the fuck what, or else shit is fucked. And what do? They turn their ass around.
Yeah, but what do we do on the back end? Bobby Kennedy made a deal with, I believe, Khrushchev, that we're going to remove the missiles from Turkey.
Yeah, but it was one. There are nuclear weapons in Turkey now, and Turkey's even shot down Russian jets. They did it over flying to Syria.
I'm talking about, come on.
But I'm saying that, like, but all that says is that, yes, we took a really strong stance against. There are no nukes in Cuba. Period.
No,
that's not going to fucking happen.
That's not what his generals want him to do. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, they want him to go just to direct war with Russia. They want to do some kind of military.
Yeah, but we didn't have to. But do you think? Hold on. Do you think the United States in the 60s would have allowed the Soviet Union to set up nuclear ballistic missiles in Cuba?
Well, I think Kennedy was in a tough bind, but I think he did the one course of action.
No, wait. Do you think the United States would have allowed the Soviet Union to set up nuclear missiles, ballistic missiles in Cuba?
Most likely no, as we saw.
Yeah, well, no, not as we saw. It would have escalated to war. We would have bombed those ships.
It almost did escalate to war. We came very, very close.
Wait, we did come close. Yes, but you know what? Khrushchev probably thought that, right? He probably thought that I can't just sail these ships past the fucking blockade to Cuba because they're going to sink them. My shit's going to get fucked. But if it was the world we live in today, where it's like, well, if we shoot the boats, then maybe the nuclear winter will happen. Then he would just say, fuck it, I'm just going to fucking ship to Cuba, right?
No, Kennedy took a middle route. He
blockaded Cuba, right?
Yeah, but that was like all his generals wanted him to do a military action. Like, he took the middle route. We're really lucky that Kennedy was president.
But military action was on the table.
It was, but we never did it. We took the middle route.
No. You keep saying, but we didn't do it. When you conceal carry, or if you have a gun, cops don't use their guns in every encounter, but they always have them, and that absolutely plays into people's minds, right? I'm not going to try to ever fucking fight a cop on anything, even if I have a whatever, because I know he's going to fucking shoot me. He doesn't have to shoot me for me to know he can shoot me, right? If the United States had a position of cuckoldry like we do now when it comes to nuclear shit,
we do not.
We literally watching Ukraine get invaded.
We do not have a position of cuckoldry. This is ridiculous. Just go back to the missile
if they would have tried, if they would have tried to sail past the blockade to Cuba, we would have sunk those boats. No questions asked.
Most likely.
Yeah, and that probably factored into the negotiating position. Now, ultimately, did we negotiate something? For sure, because there was a strong military deterrent effect, right?
Yes, and if Russia invades Poland, then we will also respond in kind, right? So that's the analogy there. But just going back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, what we did during that period was kind of take a middle route and use diplomacy. Like a big part of the reason this whole thing was avoided. Wait, let me just finish. A big part of the reason why that whole thing was avoided is because we promised Russia to remove our missiles from Turkey.
That's fine, but it wasn't just diplomacy. It was because we had a real military threat to back it up.
And we still do have a real military threat.
No, we don't. We're too scared to use it because we might get nuked.
You're saying that as if it's like getting nuked. It's so
because that's how it is. But Russia's economy sucks ass. Russia's a small fucking country. They took fucking 12 fucking years to do fuck all in fighting in Ukraine. But for some reason, the fact that Putin's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking nuke you. Look at me moving my nukes over here. I'm gonna fucking get you guys. We're like, oh no. Well, go take over Ukraine then.
Oh no. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to wind up in fucking just evaporate.
Okay. Why can't it ever be put to Putin for him to make a decision where he doesn't want something to happen? Why does he have all the power here?
He doesn't have all the power.
He does. He's literally able to stave off the entire Western world intervening in Ukraine because of the saber rattling of nuclear warfare.
Because if he nukes Ukraine, he knows that there's going to be a strong American military response. He knows that if he goes into Poland, there's going to be a strong American military response. So he doesn't have all the power here.
He literally is conducting warfare in Ukraine. He's going to steal territory from a country for the first time in decades where this has ever even happened.
Yeah, he's gonna steal the territory. And what does that have to do with America being weak?
That's not supposed to happen. In the fall of the Soviet Union, people don't just take territory from countries. These are rules of the old world. This is like pre-World War II shit, where you just take territory from people.
Yeah, the kind of the way we operate now is we just put in some kind of person in charge who's going to be favorable to us. Like
we haven't done that since the Cold War. No, we don't do that anymore.
Really? Who's the president of Afghanistan?
It was the Afghanistan National Army. Who leads Afghanistan now? It was the Taliban.
Yeah,
so we didn't put somebody in charge there.
But you don't think the guy that was in charge, the guy that flew away on a jet with like billions of dollars, you don't think that guy, we put him in power?
I think that he's the guy. I think he was loyal to the United States because the people that were voting for the people there knew that it was either the U.S. or the Taliban. But that's not the same as us installing somebody. No, of course not.
We didn't rig the election, but we definitely promoted him. And
no offense, if your choice is the USA or the Taliban, that's not a very hard choice for most people. Of course, you're gonna like that guy.
But there's other options. Like you could go back to the king, which was a lot more popular. Like we definitely had a heavy role into who was going to be in charge of Afghanistan.
It was always going to be a U.S.-backed government that was democratically elected or the Taliban.
Exactly. We went in, we fought the war, we overthrew the Taliban, at least for a time period, and then we put someone in power that we want to.
We didn't put him in power, though. They had elections for this person.
Right, but then their choices were limited to what America wanted them. Like the king wasn't, the king who was popular, he wasn't up for, he wasn't on the ballot.
Well, he should have run then.
I don't think he could. Like, don't you think America had a lot of influence about who was on the ballot?
I think that whoever wanted to be on the ballot was on the ballot. Why would you install
you don't think America had any influence after the Taliban got kicked out? You don't think America had any influence?
Who do you think gave more self-determination to their people? The Afghanistan people with the United States or Russia with Ukraine? Like this is the old Soviet thing, or it's the old World War II era of like the difference between the United States and Russia is that like if you want the US there, the US will be there. If you want the Soviets there, the Soviets will be there. If you don't want anybody there, the Soviets will be there. Like how are we comparing these two things? Do you think that the people in Afghanistan preferred the US being there or the people in Ukraine preferred Russia being there? Like it's not even remotely the same thing.
I think the people of Afghanistan, all things considered, probably preferred that no foreign country goes to war there, especially the people of Iraq. I mean, like, dude, like you're just forgetting about like the whole Middle East. Like we bombed Syria quite a few times. It didn't work out the way we want to, but Libya. I mean, we've gotten involved in so many countries.
We have, yeah, but these countries also have like shitty situations. Assad is a horrible person. Gaddafi was literally like imprisoning people and murdering them.
Yeah, and MBS is a horrible person too, but yeah, we're best friends.
Do you think the people in Saudi Arabia live like the people under Gaddafi or Assad?
No, but that's just because of economics.
Sure, so it's not even remotely comparable. I think the people are much happier in Saudi Arabia than they were under a Gaddafi Libya war.
Do you think people are better off in Libya now than they were before under Gaddafi?
I'm not sure. Probably.
With their open slave markets and all that, you think
I
they're
mean, as
better off?
opposed to Gaddafi imprisoning and torturing people, and like, I don't know, Libya's a fuck situation, but if we would have stayed, I mean, people say it would have been Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm not saying we handled the aftermath of that better, but Gaddafi's a really fucking terrible person. Nobody liked him. Like, he was literally imprisoning and murdering people. There's a reason why they.
Oh, we actually kind of liked him after 9/11 because he spoke out against the hijackers. So there was a time period when we were pro Gaddafi. That kind of changed later on. Do you think the people of Iraq are better off now than they were under Saddam Hussein?
I don't know much about the current situation in Iraq, but my guess would be yes. Saddam Hussein was
Iraq
definitely
is
fucking insane.
essentially a proxy of Iran now.
Okay. I mean, before Iraq was in constant contention with Iran, so I mean, which one was better? The Iraq-Iran war saw like over 1 million people dead.
Yeah, but there was at least no terrorism in Iraq. Say what you will about Saddam Hussein, he was definitely.
Well, there was no terrorist because he was the terrorist.
Sure, he was a dictator. Yeah, he was a brutal dictator. But what is it like?
He literally used chemical weapons against the fucking Kurdish people there and everything.
Yes,
like
yes,
the guys.
yes. But what is it like? 1 million Iraqis died during this war.
If you believe Chomsky, then the numbers gets. There's another 500,000 added every 5 years.
So how many Iraqi civilians do you think died during the war in Iraq?
I don't know. I have to look at the number, but that 500,000 to 1 million number comes from adding like every single death, like even people that died of old age or whatever. And then there was a crazy calculation to make that number as high as they did.
So what do you think? It's like 5,000 or something?
It was 6 million, not one more, not one less. I don't know. I'm sure it was 100K or something or 200K or something. I'm sure.
There's a shitload of fucking people that died. Yeah, man. Like, you think the families of those people are happier now? Like, obviously, the war of Iraq was did not help the Iraqi people and wasn't good for the U.S. either. Like, a lot of these conflicts we get into, a lot of these times, like, I'm not saying that we're as bad as Russia because we're not, but we take a lot of military action. We interfere with a lot of sovereign countries, and the outcome is usually worse.
Right. I feel like there's sometimes like the outcome isn't always the worst, right? Like I feel like the Ukraine.
One example of the opposite with
Korea. Don't you think South Korea is a good country? Like I'm sure
okay,
there's
sure. That was
in North Korea, but
I mean, we're talking about something recent. This was like 70, 80 years ago.
The first Gulf War, when we stopped Saddam Hussein from invading fucking Kuwait. I think that was probably good. We kicked him out of there.
Okay, sure. Yeah, early 90s. Okay. Anything more recent?
When was Kosovo?
I believe in the early 90s.
What else has been since then?
We've had Syria.
We haven't even done that. I mean, Syria's fucked. That place sucks. Assad sucks. I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, now we have a fucking terrorist in charge.
Yeah, they're better than fucking Assad. These guys are way better.
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, we bombed Syria twice.
Base. Okay, I gotta go. It's fucking late. Okay, you have any final words or closing thoughts for us?
No. I mean, I think we covered a lot of good shit. We should do this chat again, but let me find someone to debate you. I think you and I agree on pretty much 90% of domestic policy. I think we disagree like 70-60% on foreign policy. But I think we can make a juicier debate. Are you doing debates again?
Yeah, I've got some shit coming up too. So yeah.
All right, cool. I'll make it happen. All right, buddy. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time.
All right, I love you. Be careful, buddy.
All right, take it easy. All right. Fun discussion. Well, I'll do a few questions before I sign off. Let's see. Can you guys demonstrate an understanding of any specific words or shapes of words that Trump has wanted about and is also seeing examples you're running about? So I've given a few examples. One is suing CNN because he didn't like the way the video was edited. Another is suing a pollster, the Seltzer poll, because he didn't like their prediction. So those are two examples off the top of my head. I went from libertarian DS to Bernie Sanders comic DS, just like Alex being dragged down. I don't know where this stupid idea comes from. I'm not a communist. I don't believe in communism. I just believe in smarter and more fair policy. Like thinking that as probably like the best country in the world, should not have the worst healthcare outcomes out of all developed nations is not a commie idea. That things shouldn't be rigged so that billionaires pay an effective 7% tax rate or 8%, and middle class people pay like 30%. That's not a communist idea. If Russia gains territory, it's not winning away loss of. Yeah, that's kind of my feeling too. Oh man, I don't know why people straw man so bad. So having unfiltered illegal immigration kid by Alex, that's from there. Nope, no one said that. No one agrees with that. No one believes that. That's not my position. It's never been my position. My position is that we probably shouldn't demonize immigrants, especially illegal immigrants, and at the same time, we also should not deport legal immigrants, people who have green cards, people who have residency, because we don't like what they protest for or that sort of thing. I don't know why people on the right never engage with my positions. They always engage with like a straw man. Destiny's wrong. Libya was vastly better than Gaddafi. It's not even close. Yeah, I would agree with that too. Things are pretty bad over there. How do you think the left can do better with young men when it comes to why are you the only? I'm not the only one. Like Marcus Wolf would be an example. They exist. I think people in the manosphere pickup community have every incentive to signal as pro-Trump, and no incentive to just be upfront about their beliefs if they're a liberal. I think that if I was to just say, "Hey, I'm a MAGA, I love Trump," I would get more business. I think I would get more views. I have every incentive to change my position. I think that well, I mean, I think dating advice isn't like necessarily left or right centered. I think some dating coaches are just completely apolitical. But I think that yeah, like there's like the extreme far left, which is a small percentage who like kind of demonize the idea of pick up and dating advice, and that's obviously silly. Why do you feel Destiny didn't do anything wrong? I don't feel that. I said in my long Twitter post that he made a mistake. Uh, sharing that he shouldn't have done that. Like that was wrong. So I don't feel like he did anything wrong. But then I don't go as far. Like people are saying that he's like whatever sex criminal or all that shit. Like I think he made a selfish mistake. But also, I think people are overblowing it, and I think he acknowledges that he made a mistake. What are your thoughts on Mike Waltz leaking war plans? Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But aside from that, no one's talking about why we are bombing Yemen in the first place. Like they're only fucking with Israeli ships, I believe, at this point. Like, why are we the Air Force for Israel? Like, no one's really talking about that. And I just like, why is the guy who ran as no wars, anti-war, bombing Yemen, a country that hasn't attacked us? Trump doesn't like the way. Does it mean that his words were twisted? Okay, Trump was not involved in this video at all. It was a video of the Kamala interview. Trump was not involved. Had no role in this. So that's what makes it so crazy. Okay, we'll do one more question. A lot of context asked, but what do you think is the best way to get laid as a college student concerning go to commuter school? I mean, depends on your school, depends on how big it is, depends on whether people hang out campus or not. I would just play chill. You can chill on campus a little bit after class. approach a few girls and kind of go from there. Have you seen the video that SJW did attacking a dating coach recently? That's what I've seen. Liberals can do, it seems like. I would say that conservative dating advice is probably not that different. Yeah, I did. It's fuck, the lady's name is Chat. But I think like you can be definitely, especially economic liberal, without being an SJW. Like clearly, I'm not an SJW. I have no problem cursing or whatever, or making extremely insensitive jokes. I joke around about literally everything. You can believe in like things like universal health care or a fair tax code without being an SJW. And that's where most people are. The bomb was also meant to send a message to Germany. Germany had already surrendered by the time we dropped the nuke. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It was fun. I actually kind of enjoyed talking about this a lot. But I know you guys want to see more dating content, and there'll be plenty of that. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Have a good night.